Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker 01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of Twitch. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We had a good one for you. And all of us are feeling the spirit except for Grinchinator over there, because he's not celebrating his holidays until New Year's. So,
yeah.
As we've heard. But because it is that time of year, it is time for kind of the end of the year retrospective. So I'm going to, because there was some hullabaloo about from the last one, this is going to be a long video. This is going to be a very long one. Probably not extremely long, but we're going to be covering a lot of stuff, especially in the discussion side of things. So
I should be getting caffeine, right?
Yeah, caffeine of some kind, maybe something to drink. Especially if you're watching this after the fact, you have something to use the restroom before you start watching it. So, all right.
Unless you have wireless headphones, you can just take us with you.
Or if you listen to this mobily or listen to the podcast, you can be like, walk around the house while doing it. All right, so let's get started with introducing the various folks here. Let's start with Radar Ranger. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
So I am a self-professed Uber nerd for Star Citizen. I've been a backer since 2012. I own a company called My Radar that makes a popular mobile weather app here in the States. But the Star Citizen connection there is that back in 2017, we did a little collaboration with CIG so that we could take their planets, the in-game planets and everything, and make that so that you could view them in the app. And that was kind of neat. It was a really kind of fun project. I did a little presentation in 2017 at CitizenCon there. So if anybody who wants to go back and watch that and kind of get the gist of it there. You can get more. I should also, Darge maybe reminded me of this last time. I'm also nerdy enough that we sent up a satellite into orbit that had Star Citizen's logo on the side of it. So I have my nerd cred for sure.
There we go.
So you can find me on Twitter at @agreen, and you can also find the app at myradar.com.
Yeah, it's a good app. I use it. I know a lot of people who use it. A lot of pilots. I've known people who want to use pilots or like you do it. And my experience is, especially if you live in tornado country, it is very good because it'll tell you when a tornado has been like a warning and spotted a lot faster than the typical apps you will see that kind of pull from the like delayed pull from the National Weather Service stuff. So this is because they have their own everything on there, so it's pretty good. All right, and then we've got
it's like the way weather.
What is it? I got to find a good title for you there. The Rock Monster. There we go. The
Rock Doctor.
The Rock Doctor, Mr. Red Monster SC. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Yeah. I'm Red Monster SC. I'm on Twitch and YouTube. I do a lot of industrial gameplay, which is currently primarily mining, but getting into salvage as well, and focusing on those industrial gameplay loops. So
awesome. Yeah. Is it just Twitch or Twitch and YouTube?
Yeah. So I actually recently started streaming on Twitch and YouTube combined, and then also my YouTube has a bunch of tutorials. Talking about mining, salvage, and other kind of minor aspects of the Star Citizen gameplay. I've been a backer since like 2015-ish, and also purchased the Optane drive with the Saber Raven. So I founded the Saber Raven Owners Club, and got those going on.
Me and you both.
You gonna say something, Radar?
No, just me and him both. I'm a member of that club as well.
Nice.
I walked in Frankfurt, so
I don't have
they
one.
Actually,
I have an Optane.
Intel actually recently updated. They've got a couple of new giveaways. They're getting new Raven codes out to folks. So.
I'm blanking on the name. He's probably in chat, and I feel bad about it.
DePoets.
DePoets is working with them. He's working with a couple of different groups, including CIG specifically. So,
is that the guy who printed out those pins? Because I know somebody was looking to give away those. Those are cool. I want one.
I think that was him. So he was at it. So. All right, and then last but not least, we have the Prince of Pluto, Emperor of Uranus himself, Mr. Darganator. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Hello, I am Darionator. I make ships, not for Star Citizen, not for CIG, but for the only currently licensed model maker for CIG. Yeah,
You made
JRDF,
this.
and I made that one. I made that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And what you got there?
I've got a whole selection of.
Good,
JRDF.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He designed this.
Yeah. They started me small with the single seaters. I made the Avenger. I made the Cutter. Hold on. Let's go with Brent. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Avenger, Cutter, Herald, Vulture. What's the other? What's the? I made 4 Drake ones, 4 Aegis ones. What's the 4th Drake one? I'm blanking. It's tiny.
Cutlass Blue or Cutlass Red?
No, that was JR.
Did you get Avenger in there?
No,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm talking Drake. This 4th Drake one.
was it the Buccaneer?
Vulture?
Yes, the Buccaneer. Yeah, that was annoying.
This one?
So tiny. It's the mosquito. Yeah. Yeah, and then on each side, Avenger, Vanguard, which is actually assemblable. Saber Raven, 1 to 500. I'm guessing we have an owner here.
It's it's in there.
It's in there, yeah. And then a 4th one that I can't remember right now.
Kraken when?
Saber, the original Saber, or the Gladius?
Oh no, that was before me, and Gladius was also before me, but it doesn't matter. If you go to jrdf.sc, you can check out all of them in a row.
Yeah. Awesome.
And now I'm working on my first big one.
Nice.
And I can't say which one it is, but it is one of the small ones I already did.
Nice. I will say as well that Darionator also does a great guide. So if you're looking for information, if you're just like, if someone goes, I think I heard it from somewhere, and you go, okay, did you hear it on an ISC? And they go, yeah, you can find it within 10 minutes. Because
I have a huge spreadsheet, with all the subjects, the timestamps, the developers involved, and everything. They actually have had over 400 individual developers featured on ATV and ISC so far.
We need to make a ChatGPT plugin out of that.
Just easy source.
No.
No. All right. So with all of this, with all of this, let's talk about the actual kind of topic for today. We're going to be going over every patch, and then we're going to kind of talk about with a big conclusion: was this year good for Star Citizen or not? And with that, let's get started with Darionator. I'm going to start with the 318. We're going to start with the big one in the room. All right.
Big one. Yeah.
So what were some of the highlights? Let's start with the bads. What were the bads about 318, and then what were the highlights about 318? Because we're going to go over the bads a lot. I think we're all going to recycle a lot of that. But
I don't think I was able to play 318 for a couple of weeks after it came out because, god damn.
Yeah.
It was probably technologically and developmentally one of the biggest patches for Star Citizen in a long time, with the persistent entity streaming coming in and replacing the existing technology for streaming entities in and out, and that just broke everything because it was just tied into everything.
You want me to go over the list so we can talk about it?
Yeah, sure.
It's just for everyone to know, even who are watching, because I'll go over the quick list. It added the cargo system refactor, persistent entity streaming, salvage hull stripping, the Drake Vulture, the Scorpius Antares, the Pyro multi-tool attachment for salvage, the Daymar crash site, new rivers in Stanton. I think it was like up to 6 or 16, one of those two, like for all over Microtech and Hurston. It added the Sand Cave archetype. It added Arena Commander. It had an overhaul for the classic race mode for Arena Commander. It added sandbox prison activities. It added the new security post Korea and the missions that went with it. It added new missions for Orison, specifically with new platforms. It added the old Siege of Orison platforms got actual missions attached to them. It added new interdiction scenarios and added environmental space missions.
Big one.
Big one. It's a huge one.
Yeah. Mm. And a lot of those extra things relied on the persistent entity streaming to be in to actually work, like the cargo system refactor and the hull stripping, because that allowed them to much more efficiently, eventually, much more efficiently track everything. And yeah, I was actually going to talk to you about that, but we'll talk about it later because it is like a lesson that you need to learn before you start spewing more nonsense on your stream, Mr. Shelley.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. But yeah, I was actually, was thinking about also mentioning how such a big feature is tied into another way you can measure how successful Star Citizen is, and that is how much money it makes. And it made almost nothing because it was so broken. Yeah.
Yep.
So were there any good parts about 318?
Well, when it eventually stabilized, I loved playing with the salvage and the new locations, and persistent entity streaming meant that there was a lot more garbage everywhere because everything stayed around wherever you dropped it. My mom would go crazy because she's been pestering about leaving things wherever I drop him for the past 39 years. I haven't learned yet.
Any other thoughts on it?
On the patch on itself, or
patch itself? Yeah.
Oh, you're gonna be here a while.
Try to keep it mostly brief.
Mostly brief. Yeah. I try not to look too much at like new content as much because they've proven that they can make really quality content when it comes to locations and ships and everything like that. It just works. It's fine. It's beautiful. But yeah, this new tech that's now coming in, that is the big stuff. Yeah, and with the new salvage, even cargo is now the most lucrative part now, because you can just find like SCUs of gold in a ship that would usually net you like a couple of 10,000 UEC, and all of a sudden you're getting 5 figures or 6 figures from it, because you were able to sell one cargo container of the good stuff that was just there because of the new cargo system. Yeah.
Okay.
Really like the patch when it eventually stabilized towards the mid or the latter half of the cycle.
I was gonna say, wasn't that like 319 before we got there?
It was like 318.
It was a while.
It was like 318.2, but that was like a month after, over a month after, almost 2 months after.
Should probably mention that the biggest reason why it was so buggy, it was their off-the-shelf software they used for the entity graph that just wasn't able to keep up with the demand of all the entire player base. Which they then worked with the company, with the provider, and apparently were able to iron the bugs out. So good on them.
Yeah. And I will say, there was a lot of people that were completely like locked out of 318 for weeks, right? But the people that were in there, that were able to go through, and
they were all rubbing it in.
There was some really awesome features that people were coming across with the persistent entity streaming. You'd go out and you finally, like, if you're out doing a bounty hunting mission, you soft death that ship, it crashes to the ground, and then there's a ship hole like left on the surface there, and you can come back to that hours later, right? People were getting there, seeing that type of content, and that was a big eye opener for those who we haven't seen that up to this point, but it was, I think, one of the cooler features.
Was soft death a 317 thing already?
No,
or was
it was a 318. Yeah, it's not on the list,
but it wasn't listed in the patch.
It was listed in the patch notes, but not in the 318 update.
Yeah.
The wiki build,
yeah, all tied into the persistent entity streaming, because then they could reliably make sure that the hull is there, and the weapons are there, and the components are there, and the cargo still all remains there. Until the server crashes, of course.
Yeah. It would still come back when the server crashed. It just, you wouldn't necessarily go back on that exact same server, because that's what PES
Yeah,
was.
this is true. Yeah,
That was the hook right there. You had to get onto the same.
Yeah,
income.
but the old 30K, mitigation with the tech, with the heartbeat system, does that only apply to players or to entities like that as well? As I don't know.
It does. It
because-
applies to active entities, not soft death entities. So if it's soft death, I think it's still considered dead by the server. It's just now now stuck on that sort of thing.
Okay.
Red Monster, your overall thoughts on 318, like goods and bads.
I mean, bad. Let's start off with this. The persistent entity streaming rollout was a dumpster fire and the worst patch from a technical standpoint deployment. But they provided frequent updates. They were constantly just getting hammered with everything and finding these new unknown issues that they eventually got ironed out. Highlights for me were hole scraping. The introduction of our tier 0 first salvage look. I was excited about that initially. I think the updates they've done later, we'll talk about that, have made it a lot more enjoyable. But you get in and we actually start to. I think a lot of folks are right now just doing cargo recovery rather than actual hole stripping. So it still needs some balance, but we're starting to see the gameplay in there. And if you've watched those power washing videos on like Reddit and just the feel good
stuff right there.
Yeah. Just the feel good watching all of that whole material get pulled out. It's relaxing and kind of scratches the like the attention span just well enough.
I think you're right on that. That hull munching stuff is everybody's kind of hot to trot on it because it's the new shiny toy. But I think once there's a use for the hull scraping material at some point in the future, that'll change. I think everybody just kind of wants to jump in and try it out.
Yeah, and I think right now the way that they're balancing things, construction components are really easy. We can talk about that with the 322 update, but yeah, it's to get our first look at the beginning of the year on, and I think I actually put out a video on like Christmas Eve about the what we saw on PTU for hole stripping, and I liked it. I felt like that was a good introduction. It's not one that I did over mining at that point, but they're balancing things out.
Okay. I just quickly make this because we'll be needing it a bit.
Yeah,
a lot of tier 0 stuff came out this year.
A lot of tier 0.
Well, I mean, I think would we consider the hole stripping tier 0 or is that tier 1? That's a good question because I don't think they mentioned any tier for hole stripping. It seems like it's tier 1. Like
I think when it was
still
first
calling
introduced,
an initial implementation of tier 0. Yeah.
I think when it was initially called the tier 0, and right now we have like tier 0.5.
Yeah,
that we have hole munching, but it's kind of placeholder.
Structural salvage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Structural salvage.
You mean
yes.
vibration, hole vibration,
or liquefaction?
Yeah.
Like the in the new Dune, how the sandworms move around, they liquefy the sand and they can just flow through it like a liquid.
Radar Ranger. What are your thoughts on it? 318 goods and bads.
So I'm going to echo pretty much what everybody else said. I think, to be honest, they had something in there for everybody. I think I was kind of I'm a tech nerd, obviously. So I think the persistent entity streaming was good for me because I know that that's such a huge undertaking and a significant milestone that CIG kind of needed to get accomplished. And just the fact that they had something in there working, I think was something I was kind of looking forward to. But I think just other highlights, hull scraping, like somebody else mentioned, and then they had something in there for everything. There was also some racing editions in there, and exploration had the rivers for people who wanted to go to kind of check them out. So I think the best and the worst of it for me is probably PES on both sides, because the PES, like Red Monster said, people couldn't get in there for weeks and sometimes months because of the error messages they were getting. I was one of them at first, but I think that made it really bittersweet. Everybody really had a chance to go in there and check out some of the new features, and it was a bit rough trying to get through it at first. So yeah, I mean, the hull stripping was really kind of cool because it was the first iteration of a new mechanic, and obviously that's the breadth issue that Star Citizen has needed. You know, we've kind of been limited to, you know, shooting things and mining and FPS type stuff, but definitely I think everybody's kind of been waiting for some new game mechanics to come in, and that was one of the key ones to kind of check off the list. So yeah, really cool. I think that, and like I said, just the exploration stuff for everybody else was a pretty good key feature for everybody.
I'm again. I gotta echo everybody else. Just like the problem with 318 wasn't. So, and here's the thing. Like, I think I'm talking with a bunch of folks who've played a lot of Star Citizen. So, there have been patches which have been worse, technically worse, in terms of just like everyone not getting into the game or having issues. But this patch felt worse because it wasn't universal. It was just you roll the dice.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so it felt bad when like you got in and you're playing and like half of the people you know just couldn't get in and were just frustrated by it. So that set this really weird tone. So
I spent 318 live release day. I was one that I could get into a party in the menus, and if I launched, everybody else in my party got in but me. So I set up a voice attack script to like automatically try and relaunch every time I could. And like seriously, I sat and built my Lego Discovery Shuttle.
Yeah.
While I was sitting there like that, I was trying to stream. Everybody else was in. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna sit here and let it automatically log in. Like try and do that. And yeah, it was literally 6 hours of me hoping and praying to get into the server, and eventually just giving up and saying I'm gonna go play with my Legos. Yeah.
You know, I honestly think this is. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say you were kind of lucky because at one point I was actually my client was so bad that whenever a party launched with me in it, it would crash everybody out. And we did hunt it down. It was me. So whenever they launched without me, everybody got in.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, you know, this is I know this trope kind of gets trotted out quite a bit, but I think we've been fortunate that most of the development for Star Citizen has been easy enough to deploy that it wasn't such a major underpinning change to the system that it was going to cause such havoc. And you know, we've kind of got to the point where we've enjoyed the little things that they've added, whether it's a ship or, you know, some new FPS stuff or whatever. This is a game in development, you know, and that's hard to have such a growing base of users that really are like getting into it and having fun. And when you deploy something that's new and tried and, you know, not tested at scale yet, you're bound to have issues with it. You know, I knew that was going to be the case when they went forward with that. And it's just kind of inevitable. It's, you know, as much as you try to design for it and plan for it ahead of time, until you get it live and into a large production environment, you never really can, you know, really plan on everything that people are going to do. So it's a bummer because that's one of the things that we had to deal with. And, you know, they fixed it ultimately and people were definitely happy about it after the case. So, you know, I have a feeling we're going to go through the same thing with server meshing.
Yeah.
Once they got the roughest of edges ironed out, I feel like it was a lot better experience for people.
Yeah.
And, you know, being able to, you know, if your client crashes, come right back in. A lot of times you're right back in the seat of the ship you were just in, or like right in the same place. You know, a lot of times I'd end up back on the tram.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And I would say that, you know, how the deployment of PAS went is the reason why we now have a tech preview channel, because they can now
100%.
start rolling out big features that aren't reliant on a new branch. They can just, you know, do live plus, and they can just have everybody who wants to play, you know, automatically has access. It's basically your live account. It just has access to this new feature. And then, you know, they also then avoid the whole tiered PTU thing, hopefully eventually, where they don't have enough concurrency to really stress test the system, which is one of the reasons why PS was so bad, because it was fine in PTU. But then when you increase the traffic tenfold, 100-fold, it just shut the bed.
So the problem was twofold. One was CIG had been running 318 for so long, because 318 had been in testing since December, and it was released in March. So it was almost 4 months in testing, and earlier it was getting PTU it was getting Evocati tested as early as November. So it was.
Sorry. One point also, they pre-announced that it was going to be a wipe.
Yeah, wipe. So what happened was nobody played the live branch. They were waiting for, and they didn't want to play the PTU because they knew it was going to get wiped. So people played the PTU to experience the new content. And then after about a month or so of people playing it, they're like, all right, cool, we've played it. And then they stopped playing it or just avoided Star Citizen altogether. And I know there are people in chat and people who are watching right now who were like this. They found out that it was a wipe in December or November, and they just stopped playing Star Citizen until 318 came out. So the population dropped significantly in that time period because people just were waiting for the wipe. And when 318 launched, all of those people came back at once. And that's what happened, was that they had no population to test it at the end when they were having all these different fixes. And then once they released it, it spiked super high because everyone wanted to get in right after the wipe, and that broke everything. And I think that's the reason why we
damn
have the
gamers TM.
And I think that's the reason why we have the tech preview now, is because if they run a limited time specific quantity preview where they're like, we're going to only turn it on for 8 hours between here and here, they can FOMO people into playing it instead of just being like, nah, it's all right. You know, people who have a chance to play it, well, they'll play it when they have a chance to. That's what happened with, like, say, the Pyro, playground.
Yeah.
So, I was just say, but in general, I would say, because it's just looking at the patch, I was looking at the patch notes and I was like, it was the biggest patch of the year. 318, hands down, was the biggest patch of the year in terms of content. It's so much stuff was added. And
how much of that was added because 318 spent 3 to 4 months in the PTU cycles?
Yeah. I mean, for sure. But like usually the end of the year patch is like nothing. Like there's like 4 things in an end of the year patch. And so
and we'll talk about it in 322.
Yeah. But like 322 is a bit of an outlier, but it's still like, because like 322 is the only other patch that has, so 322 has 11 additions to the game. And of course, 4 of them are ships. 5 of them are ships. So 12 additions and 5 of them are ships. But so almost half of them are ships.
Only two are features, yeah.
But like everything else, all of like 3.21 and 3.2
21.
3.21.
That was in 2018 to 3.21.
For some reason, the stuff you linked was a little bit off. There we go.
So the 319 major updates. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, 320 was pretty big. Yeah. 319 had very little. So, but I mean, that was my opinion. Like, it was huge, but it had those problems. And I think if it didn't have those problems, it would have been probably the best year 1 patch we've ever had. What were you saying, Red?
No. Looking at like 319 and some of the other patches there that were pretty light on the feature side.
Yeah.
Throughout the year.
All right. 318. We kind of went over it. So now let's go into 319. So Radar Ranger, I'm going to read off the features, and feel free to, if you can remember 319, because it's such, for me, when I first read a lot of this stuff like that, I don't remember much about 319 at all.
I think we said this earlier. Some of it we had to black out.
Yeah. This was released in
May.
Yeah, it was May 16th, 2023. And it had Lorville Cityscape, new player experience, the salvage contracts, Ghost Hollow PvP mission, tractor beam attach and detach, and the RSI links. So, your overall goods and bads, your overall kind of experience with 319 there, Radar.
I liked it. I'm trying to remember whether or not it actually improved performance a little bit and took care of some of the issues that I think people are having. I think that's what people were certainly hoping for. I was looking forward to Lorville, just because I'm a geek and love to look at scenery. Mm-hmm. The other thing that I think is pretty significant was the ability to attach and detach weapons and items from ships, because that was basically the doorway to real world physicalization and configuration, like configuring your ships and grabbing stuff off of other ships that you've blown up, that kind of thing, or something you found out in the wild. The Lynx, I think, was cool just because people were looking for it for a while, and the Fury was a fun little thing to dart around and blow stuff up with. But yeah, I can't remember whether or not all the technical issues were worked out by this time, but I kind of get the sense that they were not, at least not until I think it was
Not
320
fully.
and beyond. Yeah.
It was definitely an improvement, but there were still there's still people in my Discord and my chat who are like, "Yep, I'm still locked out." Like they weren't able to get in with 319. But it was I think it fixed most of the problems, but there were still a significant number of people who just literally couldn't play.
I can't get over how many people were still stuck in that far into it. From what I understand, it was some kind of database issue, with the new systems they were using. But it's like, gosh, wow, what the hell was it that went so long on just limited number of people? It probably had something to do with inventories or something like that, I bet you.
Yeah, because this was the one when they actually changed it so that they that you, instead of spawning your ships, instead of having your ships there, you'd have to call your ships, which would then take like 10 seconds to actually show up in the location. Because that was one of the problems they had, is that the game was trying to load in all of the ships, and when it was trying to load in all of the ships, it would freak out and sometimes prevent you
That's
from,
what it was. Yeah. I love Lorville.
Which is
Lorville was all the best.
fine.
Yeah.
Not for me.
All right. Red Monster 319. What you remember? Goods, bads.
Salvage contracts being a huge one. Up with the 318 initial release, you were out there scanning for derelict ships like you would asteroids or harvestables. But with the new salvage contracts, that brought in, and honestly, it as someone like who rooted in mining, I was a little bit disappointed we didn't get mining missions, and I'm still disappointed we don't have mining missions. But they brought in salvage missions like 2 months after the actual release of your hull stripping. So those were fantastic. I think that brings a lot of the players in and ups the gameplay aspect. And granted, like, people are still out, committing insurance fraud, going and scraping their own ships, and getting enough time that your insurance claim timer was done on the C2 by the time you finished scraping the old C2, and that really turned out to be how people were playing initially. And then these missions now with all the drugs and stuff that'll spawn in the cargo, this is kind of the patch that was responsible for like breaking the economy, I think, because people are getting ridiculous amounts of money out of those. And I'm not sure if it was in 319 or 320 that they were balancing out the cargo being populated on these missions, but that was those options. The Ghost Hollow was interesting from a PvP event. The times that I had played it, only one of the terminals was working, but it made kind of an interesting, where Jumptown is running on specific schedules. Ghost Hollow is kind of one you can go trigger yourself, take the comms down and get out, right? So
I never played it because for some reason I still get like huge performance issues at Ghost Hollow. It's just not a fun location for me to be at, and especially for combat, because I just get owned by people or NPCs that just, even NPCs that have higher frame rates than me. And we all know how bad the frame rate is for AI. Eesh.
All right. Darsh, your thoughts. 319.
A bit of a nothing burger of a patch. Probably the biggest thing that they did were fixes for 318. With PES, and they had a lot of people just making sure that the fixes weren't breaking other things, and the fewer extra features you add, the less chance it is that it will break something. That they had to add something like the links and. You mentioned the Fury, but I don't see the Fury in the patch notes.
The Fury was added there as well because it was the Invictus patch.
Yeah. Because 320 does mention the Fury LX, so you'd think that
it was. I think it was 3.19.1 is when it came out.
Right. Yeah. That's true.
All the .1 patches.
They had a bunch of ships.
Oh no, we need to go look at those as well now.
Yeah. I looked at most of the .1s and they weren't really. They're mostly fixes with like maybe 1 or 2 additions, like ships and stuff like that. So
the thing that stood out to me the most was the new player experience. That was
Really?
so good. Yes,
Yeah.
because it was needed sorely for so many people. They have like thousands of people signing up every day, and the learning curve for Star Citizen is still, the last section of American Ninja, with the ram that curls back on itself.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
that steep. So, a new player experience, even though it was broken, of course it was broken. Still a good thing to have. Like you have something, in the UI to guide you through the basic functions, and then they're gonna have to remake it for the new interaction mode that Inesh is working on.
yeah.
Yeah.
I will kind of echo that. I think the new player experience is important, mostly because of the tooltips. The tooltips, the tooltips were specific because they were context now. So instead of just randomly popping up and telling you, it was like if you pulled out a gun, it would tell you about a tooltip about your gun. If you pulled out like a tractor beam, it would tell you a tooltip about the tractor beam. If you've called your ship, it would tell you a tooltip about calling your ship. It would just pop up, like contextually pop up with what you were doing. That was more.
And this is
important than
nothing
the new player experience.
groundbreaking. It's something that was sorely needed, and it's built into just about every game. But Star Citizen technically isn't a game yet.
Well, I mean, I
But it
totally
kinda
understand
has
why
to
it was
be.
so hard to make one before. I mean, I can't be the only one here who remembers the original tutorial
original
they
one.
had for Flight,
Yeah.
and how much they had to reinvent it
Really?
like the next patch.
Yeah.
I mean, it was really cool, but I think
worked
I was
for
being
one
selfish.
patch.
I think you're absolutely right. That was a very cool thing to have.
Yeah,
It
I get
worked
the feeling
for
I
one
tried.
patch.
I get the feeling I tried that when I was like brand new, and immediately, like when it tells you to strafe up off the pad, immediately crashed into the ceiling of the hangar because
Yeah, 'cause
they
wouldn't open.
put nothing was opening. It was just
Yeah. It was to the point
that's
where
the
I think
last time I had
community-
done a tutorial like that.
Yeah, the community basically asked CIG to remove the tutorial. They're like, it's actively hurting new player experience. Please remove the tutorial. So it required the community to tell them to turn it off rather than them themselves turning it off. So, I don't know. I will say with 319 the new player experience was important. Lorville getting the glow up was also important because I think Lorville actually coming in the way it was is the first indication to me that CIG was in we know what our cities should look like. We know what our landing zones should look like. We now have a idea that we're not going to start going off into weird tangents every new system we get, where we have a plan, we have a box.
But it's not just how they look, but how they function. They laid the groundwork for all the procedural building interiors they showed off at last CitizenCon.
Yeah.
So now Lorville is set up to work with those when they come in, and hopefully New Babbage is already set up for those. Area 18 probably isn't, because that was the first one that came in as a city. So
Yeah, that's the Area 18 is the last one that's the problem that they have to go back and fix, but it was built with some technology that they don't use anymore, and so they have to rebuild it from scratch. And that just takes
biome
time.
generation, but they need to fix up the entire planet anyway, because it's not supposed to be completely built up, and it's supposed to have oceans. Right now, it's just the entire surface is one biome, and that's the point. They need to rebuild it with planetary generation version 4 or whatever it is right now, to bring it up to what it is it's supposed to be in lore.
And Jin,
and I'm guessing Area 18 is going to visually stay the same, but technologically is going to change, and they'll open up a lot more of these alleyways that leave off from the square and into new locations.
Yeah. Jen, I'm going to answer this question real quickly, just even though you put it in there because this is important. But Jen asked, does anyone know if the tooltips reference your own key binding and settings data to modify tooltips, or do they just report the defaults? They do change with whatever you modified.
That would be smart. That would be a little bit of shortcoming if it didn't.
It does change.
And it was the building blocks that allowed them to make that, because with the old, if they built it on the old Flash, it would probably probably they would have to do like a Frankenstein thing to actually allow it to show custom keybinds, because Flash UI has to be baked in,
Yeah.
and then deployed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go to the next part. All right, but I think 19 for me was much more of a I forgot it existed patch, because 318 was such a dumpster fire, and 319 was much more of a we want to fix the back end. There was different.
It was still on a 318 branch, right?
Yes, it was. It was still a 318.
That's the thing. That's the thing they said. Yeah, it wasn't its own branch. Yeah.
Yeah, because they originally wanted to have a separate branch that would eventually become 3.2 or 3.20, 3.20. That's why I call it 2.0, because it's like, 3.20.
It triggers me because 3.20 was the patch in
2016.
No, 18. No, December 17 was 2.0.
Yeah. But I do, but also like the salvage contracts. That's confused me, because they were talking about the salvage contracts and the mining contracts in the same thing. They were like, okay, these are both the same thing. And then they released the salvage contracts, not the mining contracts. I'm like, what? But it's the same technology. Why didn't you do the mining contracts?
Probably because refining still isn't a player forward mechanic yet.
I think it also had to do with the fact that they were going to do it, and then because we'll talk about it when we talk about 320, because the 320 is a big one, because I think that was the patch they did the complete overhaul of mining, and that I think that's the reason why they didn't do the mining missions, because they were going to do a complete overhaul of mining. So they're like, the distribution is going to change, and so we're just not going to mess with that right now. But still like to see it. All right, well that was. Go ahead.
I was going to say, from a technical standpoint, they probably do need to generate localized clusters of specific materials. That is a different system than just saying populate an NPC ship that's dead with these assets. Yeah, I think it's a little more involved on the mining side.
And we know that they have a plan on changing the entire distribution of materials inside the system. Like, depending on how far away from the star you are, you will have like these bands of different materials that you'll be able to find. So I guess that's one for incentivizing people to travel for specific materials they want, and also that will also then enable them to do the missions, but one of the things has to come before the other one, and
and so actually I think that brings up the next one, because I think that was in 3.20. It's not on this list here, but I will double check to make sure on the RSI website, because I'm pretty sure that was the case. Patch notes.
Yeah, 320 was a huge. 319 was the main rebalancing. 320 was mining stability and polish,
and the whole C.
Yeah, and the whole C.
Yeah.
And the new vehicle handling physics, which barely got fixed in one of the hot fixes of 322.
Yeah,
I didn't
it was
notice too much of a big difference with that.
Yeah, that was the problem.
I think I was expecting more.
No, it's super visible, especially when you get air. It actually behaves like a proper ballistic object now, instead of this weird thing. It respects gravity,
which was huge.
Yeah. Before there was no preservation of angular momentum, which really made everything behave super odd. Like, if you when you jumped, you would you would start tumbling in a weird way that wasn't coherent, or wasn't how you would expect something. How gravity affects you. But now with the new physics, now actually it behaves like vehicles in other video games where you could, ramp it, yo.
All right, Red Monster. Let's start with you on this one. 3.20. Your ups and downs. I'm stick right back.
Downs. Goodbye, Port Olisar. Right.
Yeah.
They brought in Seraphim. They brought in Seraphim Station, and I mean, it was the only location you could really you could avoid mostly the interstation elevators.
Yeah.
you could walk out onto pads. You know, we don't have exposed pads anymore.
It had its
I
own
mean,
theme song.
Yeah, it did. And yeah, we do have exposed pads, but it's not one you can like pull a vehicle out onto.
All right.
You know, the physicalized cargo, being able to move around and attach those, that was big. You know, the whole sea. I'm not much of a cargo hauler, but that's definitely an interesting addition. You know, getting into the larger sized vehicles there, and all of the new racetracks. Getting into Arena Commander was big. You know, it gives me a lot more opportunity to practice my terrible racing piloting skills.
I was about to say, are you a racer?
I commentate races, and occasionally I try to put in times for myself. But
Got it.
yeah.
All right.
I love watching racing. I'm not that good of a racer myself. Like I'm a huge fan of racing in real life, as Paul
Yes.
painfully knows, as I mention it on just about every occasion that I can. I'm looking forward to the Daymar Rally, and especially the new physics that are going to bring. And if they had done the Daymar Rally in November, no, everyone would have died. And it would have been done over in like an hour or so.
Yeah.
Now they actually I think they have a chance of finishing the damn thing.
All right. Radar Ranger, your thoughts?
I'm gonna say I like the whole sea because I thought it was a big highlight for me just because I've been around for so long. I remember when they introduced that ship, and that thing was like, to me, it was like a personal milestone that they needed to achieve because it utilized some funky tech that once they knew that they got that in place, it would have an impact on other systems and other ships in the future. It was just a cool ship, and the concept of being able to haul around big stuff. I'm not really a big hauler either. I know a lot of people are, especially some of the people in our org, and the idea of having, just a big rig to be able to lug stuff around. I thought it was really cool. Neat ship. It looked really neat. It was different. Like Red Monster said, getting rid of Port Olisar was a bummer. I think, between the music and my first experiences in the game, way back in, 2014 or so, it obviously had a lot of sentimental value, and I think everybody kind of felt that way. And I get it. It was a Frankenstein that was made up from technology, before they had kind of modernized things, and it didn't have all the stuff that they needed for hangars and stuff like that. But I don't know. It would have been neat if they could have figured out a way to salvage it and just add stuff onto it, and make it more Frankenstein. I think one of the guys who played the Pope.
It totally is a Sheltie.
Aww.
Mrs. Red grew up reading and showing them.
Very cute. I have 3 of my own little ones sitting here snoozing behind me. At any rate, Port Olisar. So I think the guy who did the oboe in that theme song was a big Star Citizen fan and player at the time. I remember talking to him on Twitter about it. Anyway, it was so honestly, I think this was one of the first patches. We were starting to make. We were coming out of the dust was settling from all the previous bugs on the previous patches and stuff. And we started like one of the first patches that started to get really kind of playable. And so that was if I wanted to address the highlight of it, I would say that.
Okay. I will say for 3.20, my big thing was I'm gonna be the Grinch in this. I did not care for Port Olisar. I know why people like Port Olisar, but I also feel like Port Olisar was a bit of a crutch for a lot of people, because a lot of people like Port Olisar because you could just run down, spawn your ship, and then run directly to your ship. No elevators. There was no elevators required, so you could just go out there and do that. And it's like, well, that's just not how Star Citizen is being developed and designed. Like, it's just not going to be a possible thing anymore. And
you know what? I gotta address that though, because we're all kind of playing the game as it is now. We all acknowledge the fact that we're going to wake up in a hab and walk downstairs.
Yeah.
But that's not how it's always going to be. And I think if it was like moving forward, I think that would be a detriment to a lot of people getting into playing, because the setup time, and I think CIG has acknowledged this, the setup time for getting into play is too long. Ultimately, I think that the idea is you're going to be out at a ship someplace or at your own base or whatever, and being able to log out in a bed. But like even this, I posted about this in Spectrum one day and got like raged on.
Oh yeah, what's Spectrum?
I think you should be able to log out of the game without going to a bed and suffer the consequences of being in the game too long. Because, say you're in a ship and you don't have a bed, or you're trying to play like an adult and you've got to go to work or something like that. You don't have the ability to go to a station and log out. I would love it if they get to the point where they actually do that. So that sure, make me vulnerable for a little while until the coast is clear, and then log me out safely at that point. But so just bring this back to the whole point on how the game isn't quick when you start it off. I think if they don't tackle that at some point, that could wind up preventing a lot of people from jumping in, unless they make an easy way for them to get back to the real world where they have real responsibilities.
I think, but I think the thing is that like CIG always wants to have the ships spawn in a place where you can't see them, and you're going to be storing your ships in a place where you can't see them. Like they're going to try to hide that. They don't want it to spawn in like that.
Yeah, but that so if you log out in a bed though, you're still going to run through the same thing.
Well, yeah, but if you log in the bed, when you get back in, you're like the ship will spawn in, and then you will spawn in, and that kind of stuff, like that sort of thing. But like they want to try to hide that as much as possible from other players, and on top of that, they're adding so much other features to it. So like repair is you're going to have to go to a special bay. Or you're going to have like refuel is going to be different. So, like, CIG wants to start adding a lot of those sim elements to the game that are going to require a little bit more time and effort. And as a result, like, All-Star just wasn't designed for those things. And so it was more of a like, it's just got to go. And I've played, like, Star Citizen for a long time. So, like, All-Star has always been one of those, like, oh yeah, it's iconic, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm okay. I'm okay with change. Rip that bandit off.
Yeah, but so I'm geeky enough that I remember playing around on Port Olisar and looking at all, like flying around the outside of it and looking at all the things that looked like they were going to be future expansion ports on it.
Yeah,
and daydreaming that they were going to wind up just like stapling on hangars and things like that. It would have been nice if they could have taken that approach and saved the thing, but I'm sure it was probably a technical nightmare to try to.
We lost Red Monster, so I don't know.
Yeah, they would have had to maybe kept the geometry, but completely rebuild it from the inside out with the new technology to allow for new. Because it needed a medical bay, it needed more shops, it needed cargo, and probably a refinery as well. And it is Crusader's port. Yeah. The big port above Orison, so it needs to be big and grandiose. It's a bit bittersweet for me because it is the nostalgia
theme song,
thing.
Man. That theme song.
Yeah.
And that being feeling able of logging in and hearing that thing.
Yeah, and the best thing about it was not taking the stairs, just jumping out the window and landing in the subterminal room. That's what I care about the most. Yes. But I also understand that it's just not compatible with the game where it is. I feel like smaller stations in more, backwater reaches of the verse should be more like Orison, Port Olisar was. Just a flight of stairs away from your hab to the expo terminal and then to your ship. But with the sort of traffic that the station is supposed to have, it's just not gonna happen. On the other hand, the interiors of current stations are garbage. The layouts, the corridors just don't make any sense. And the entire hierarchy of how it's set up needs to be looked at.
I would be okay with that if they had theming. I can't remember the name of any of the stations that are orbiting because, like, what's the difference between Bajini and Tressler?
Yeah.
Like,
no, they're all made by Rest and Relax. So of course they're not going to have any theming.
But they're made for specific companies, which they all airports are airports, but you can tell the difference between like JFK
Yeah,
and in Denver.
Yeah, but but they're not made cookie cutter from the same components by the same huge, one company.
At least interior wise, or like paint.
Yeah.
They could have different paint.
Yes,
they don't even have different paint.
Yes.
They could throw some Hurston logos inside of the lobby for the one that's like, what is it?
Sure.
Whatever it is. But that's probably the biggest issue. Tier 0, yeah.
I like the way it looks from the outside. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm glad they kept the vibe of Port Olisar. And if you walk out, you look out the window. If you walk out on a pad, you still have the view. The best view in the game, which is the huge candy ball just looming over top of you. That perfect. But yeah, stations. They need work. The pyro ones have the same layouts on the inside.
I was about to say, I kind of feel like the same thing with pyro. I could not, figure out my ass from my elbow in those things because they all look identical.
Yeah. No, but they look identical to the Rest and Relax ones in Stanton.
Yeah.
But the first time I logged in, it felt like someone went back in time and kicked a puppy somewhere and changed the entire course of history, and now we have rundown stations that are basically exactly the same as the good ones we had before.
Even the hangars are the same.
Yeah, the layout of the floors on the habs are the same, and then you take the elevator, you go down to the lobby, and that is basically the same. It's just different.
It's the overlay system.
The overlay. The overlays. There are difference. But I just wish they would use that sort of system to create more versions. More versions of the clean ones, more versions of the rundown ones, maybe something in between. Hopefully they have Montreal working on it.
Yeah,
because those seem to be that seems to be the only studio that actually gets any work done.
I would say that I think that's the biggest thing I heard from the community when Seraphim Station came out was people were mad that Olisar was taken out, because a lot of people were like, at least Olisar had
a layout.
It had personality. It was different. And the fact that it was different made it a lot of people like it. Whereas
I think what's going to be cool about that is that that's done with a tool, so they don't necessarily have to revisit everything. If they can, make some, improvements and upgrades to the tool, it might have an easier time of kind of regenerating everything and, at least giving them a better layout, better skinning, or something along those lines.
Yeah. Everything else, I like the physicalized cargo updates is great. The new sized, the 1, 2, 6, 8, 12, 24, 32, the different sizes were great. That's fantastic.
Was this the first one where you could actually move them around? Okay, yeah. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, because 318 was the one where you could actually move them around, but it was only one SCU of cargo that they did. And then this one was the one where they actually set it so it's not just the one SCU crates, it was like 1 through 32.
Are you sure? Because I was under the impression, I thought they went through a stage where they put it in the ship, but it wasn't movable. It was just physicalized.
That
was
was 318, but
okay.
It was supposed to be, you were supposed to be able to remove it, but you couldn't.
Right.
That was a bug that they had with 318, was that some of them would be invisible again, even though they weren't supposed to be. And then they fixed that in 319. And then in 320 was when they actually kind of did the full rollout of all of the size to size differences.
I mean, that is another milestone in the gameplay, of having stuff physicalized so you can actually start to really think in terms of logistics and for the people who like to organize their own stuff and it was a big change.
No tractor beams for the ships yet, so you still had to do it, in EVA with the little dinky door.
Yeah. But at the very least, one of the things that I heard a lot of people complaining about in the past was all of these are one SCU cargo crate, so it takes forever to load and unload. And one of the things that always confused me about that argument was they're going to have 32 SCU crates. You're not going to always have, one SCU crate. You're going to have 3 6 SCU crates in the back of your Cutlass or something. And that'll kind of the 3 or 4, and that'll fill the whole thing up. And, so you're not really going to have just one SCU crates all the time. So it'll be a lot easier to load and unload as you need to, because they're just going to be less volume than you think. But yeah, so that was the other big one, and then it was the arena commander patch. Like, it was that was good. It's good.
Is
and
that
bad.
also the one with that had the new UI, right, for Arena Commander?
For Arena Commander, yeah. This is the first one where you had the full rollout of Arena Commander, of experimental modes, new maps, all of the racetracks were added to the game. Were added to Arena Commander, so all of the ones that they added in 3.19 or 3.18 were added to then again to that in 3.20. So, what was else is that? And they added HDR support, which was cool, I guess. But I would say 3.20 was the first patch, because I think that was also the patch that we got. It was either 3.220 or 3, like it was in that patch branch when we got the hunt for the tickets edition.
Oh yeah. Also, by the way, Red's rebooting his router, and it will hopefully be coming back soon.
Yes, I saw that. So Red's not gone. He had a power outage, so he's coming back. So
okay.
Yeah.
Imagine he's in Texas. Being the weather guy, there's a lot of weather in Texas right now.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm in Texas, and I'm fine. So
you're on the east side, right? Over by Austin.
Yeah, I'm by Austin. So so I'm it's okay. So it would just get rain right now. No, not a lot of wind, but I was gonna say So but that was the other big one was the F8C. I think this was the F8C patch, if I remember correctly, and.
Yeah, with the gold and platinum tickets.
With the gold and platinum tickets.
Anybody in chat who got a platinum ticket?
That's a good question. Is there if you're watching this after the fact, type in the comments if you got a platinum ticket or if you know somebody who got a platinum ticket. So, yeah.
Oh yeah. I actually thought the golden tickets are going to be a lot more rare than they were, because the first couple of times I went out, I couldn't find a single one, and then like the fourth or fifth time I went to one of those derelict outposts, opened a crate, and there were 6 of them in there.
Yeah,
maybe I just didn't play enough, but I didn't find any.
Yeah, like I think it depends on when you went, because I think like early on because they were limited, so like they only spawned a certain number, and I think they spawned a ton early on, so like everywhere had them, and then as the later you went, the less they spawned, because I think they readjusted the spawn rate, because they're like, ooh, that's everyone's finding them. So
and Hagabard, we do have evidence there were platinum tickets, because a couple of prominent streamers had them and they were on the run. So yeah, there are VODs.
There are VODs. There are also communities, like group organizations who got them and then shared them with each other. So I love PvP organizations. One of my favorites, this is the patch I would say is my favorite patch just in terms of activity because of stuff like that. The new community manager for CIG, who came from Larian and from like a couple different places. So he's the French community manager. He decided at one point, he went into game and with a bunch of other with a platinum ticket with a bunch of other CIG devs, and when he spawned in, he didn't have any armor or weapons, and they're like, you should probably get some armor and weapons. And he was like, no, I will pay the iron price for it. And so he was running around beating up players who were trying to take him down with his bare hands to take him to take down the players, and would gathering their weapons and equipment. I was just like, he's now my favorite. I'm sorry, everybody at CIG. He is now my favorite. They're my favorite developer. All
right.
But
y'all hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we're good.
Yes.
You're good.
Are we here?
Welcome back.
Right. I'm gonna go grab a beer, so we'll be back to only 3-person per show.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a report of 8 reindeer and a sled somewhere crashing into
a power station, a power relay somewhere.
Something there.
Yeah, I think 3.20 was the first patch of the year that I felt positive overall. Like either positive or just felt whelmed. Not overwhelmed, not underwhelmed, just whelmed.
It's whelmed.
Yeah. By it. It felt positive by being neutral. So Well, I was going to have Dart start with the next one, but I guess I'll have Radar Ranger start for the next one. Let's do 3.21. What's your overall thoughts for 3.21? The major updates were they added the new Crusader platforms around Crusader. They added the jump point stations. They added the retrieve consignment missions. They had the steal evidence mission from Korea. Then they added the A1 and the cutter. I think they also added the data heist missions in 3.21.
Tractor beams.
And tractor beams, and the bigger tractor beams, So
I thought that was another milestone, honestly, tractor beams, because that's part of the gameplay. Part of that, what I was talking about earlier about, dying so easily and having the loop to start over again taking so long. Once we get soft death, that's a little more systematic or systemic. The idea of being able to have your ship towed so you can get it repaired and kind of get back in the game, or I think longer term, that's one of the cool gameplay features that's going to be out there, because you'll be able to play with friends or org mates or anybody else who just like doing the tug gameplay, like the tugs of med runners or the med runner of tugs. I thought that was pretty cool to have that in game and just ship tractor beams in general. So obviously the SRV was a neat little ship to include with that. They got quite a few ships in here.
Yeah.
In 321.
Because 3.21.1 added the Storm. They also added the C1, the SRV, and then in 320 itself, 321 itself, it added the A1 and the Cutter Scout. It was 5 pack. Oof.
Yeah. Ship Trespass was pretty cool too, because that was yet another thing that, first of all, people were kind of getting ganked by having people sneak onto their ships.
Mm-hmm.
Let me rephrase that. You couldn't necessarily gank people because you were getting announced when you were online.
Yeah.
Once you entered their ship. At least now, there's a little bit more strategy to it. The new platforms and some of the other stuff, I never really got a chance to play those that much. Yeah. Another good patch.
Bread Monster 3.21. Your overall goods and bads.
Yeah. So the new platforms, I would say I haven't had much of a chance to get out and actually play them. The A1 Spirit bombing sounds. I'm one. I've actually got a clip that's been pretty popular of an A2 dropping the bomb right on the steps at the Jumptown facility. So kind of like playing around with that.
Yeah.
Things go boom.
Things go boom.
Overall thoughts in general, just that's just it. Just kind of it was a thing.
Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot in there for me specifically. There were some updates. And Dart showing off the beverage.
Yeah, look how that's spelled.
Reset.
No,
Pale ale.
Pale ale, yeah.
Yeah.
Dumb American, I'm saying pale ale.
Yeah.
But I feel like there wasn't a whole lot there specifically for me. We talked about a little bit of the tractor beams. Back with the introduction of the removal of components, that was another big feature. For mining crews, I think we're really excited about being able to swap out modules and lasers on the fly. Now, it's taken more logistics effort than most people want to put into it, but I know, like with my group, the addition of the tractor beams certainly makes it a lot easier for us to, swapping out mole bags onto the prospector. You got a 48 SCU prospector. Those are kind of the ways it ties in, specifically for my interests. But.
Okay. Darsh 3.21.
You mean 21, good sir?
3.21, whatever.
Yeah. Hold on, let me look. Like I was away. Nothing pretty big. At least that I. Yes, but was that in 321 or was it 321.1?
We're kind of lumping them together for this one, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, 321.1 introduced my new daily driver, which is the C1. I melted my penguin for it.
Oh.
Which a lot of people are very angry with me because that's like one of the
iconic
was it
Darsh
called?
things.
No. It's one of the sins to melt a penguin.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'll grab one with in-game money, Chad. Don't worry. But yeah,
You mean the man who modeled the penguin
I
for
don't need it anymore.
JRDF doesn't even have
It's out. I don't need it anymore.
In his defense, I actually have not owned a pledged prospector up until just recently. I was one that pledged the Orion and it got the loaners. So
Yeah. Yeah.
321.1 also had the Sulin, right?
Mm-hmm. Sulin. That was the one that's not listed there, but yeah.
Yeah, it's because that was the IAE patch, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. IAE, same old. But yeah, Sulin. I really like the idea of a Sulin. But I just couldn't live with that interior. It was just like living in a cave. I know it's made of stone, but you could still light it a bit better.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little dark.
Yeah, it's like stepping into a C1. It's like, oh, I can actually see. I know this is so nice. Yeah, this is what eventually got me into the C1 from the ceiling, because I was gonna do that as my daily job. I love the vertical takeoff and landing. I actually never had an issue in the 48 hours that I owned it. Of just of that.
I have to confess, I didn't know that you could rotate in the hangar. Like, I'm literally trying to figure out which key I got to press to move out sideways.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't until I watched somebody else on YouTube do it. I was like, oh,
down.
Yeah,
down.
Pitch down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but you got to rotate. Like, so I thought if you rotated,
no. You just go forward a bit.
Yeah.
And then down through the door. It was always
right, and that's what I did. But I saw
Yeah.
somebody. All you got to do is lift off, and you can rotate. So you point your nose out the front, and you actually fit out the door. I had this.
Yeah, but it's a lot tighter fit to do it like that, because it is shorter this way when it's landed than it is in its triangle form.
Wow. Got it.
Yeah. Although, yeah, and if you splay out, there's no way you can actually fit out. So you still have to have the landing gear down and be compacted if you wanted to fit, through like that. Same with, I'm jumping a patch, but same with the Santa Chiai. It is a very tight fit with how tall it is if you convert inside the hangar to get out. So you basically just have to, lift, go out, and then convert and leave. It's a lot easier.
I don't know if it's this patch, but it might have been earlier and we missed it. But like there was a patch that they added like the clamber animations more, like basically everything had vaulting. Like
that was a while ago.
Yeah. I think it was 320. That may have been or may have been 319. But yeah, that was brought in this year. It's one of those things where like I completely forgot about that, but that's such a good little quality of life change that you can now vault on the side of a cutlass when I used to have to put a box in there to reach it.
There's a lot of features like that. There are such great quality of life features that your mind actively blocks whatever happened before and makes you think that this is how it's always been, and it doesn't create this memory
I would say,
inside your mind that now we have it. No, we always had it.
That was this year, like because I mean, like tractor beams, like handheld tractor beams was this year too.
Yeah.
And
the big one, yeah.
To that point, there's probably a lot of little features that I think that haven't been mentioned in the patch notes that were quality of life improvements that are probably really significant that we all, were big standouts that aren't getting mentioned.
That's what felt like this year, because that's the other thing that I was looking at 3.21.1 where they added the AI behavioral integration. So they integrated the AI behavior from Squadron 42 into the AI for like bunkers missions and stuff like that. So like the hallway, the towing for things, they added a new player
the
experience.
SRV. When was the SRV?
It was 3.21. That was 321.1 was when it came in.
Oh. Yeah.
And then
with the sound bug when they were towing. Oh god.
Yeah. And then you also had the ground radar. So like if you noticed in 3.21, like you can actually see players on the ground now. So if you get close to the ground, you see you'll be able, your radar will pick up the NPCs if they're close enough to you, and like vehicles and stuff like that. So, and chat's also bringing up the move all button. So that seems like this year was a lot of that. Like it was not a lot of big name features, but it was a lot of like, here's 17 quality of life fixes that we had time to fix. So, you know,
I feel like they didn't want to do that with the current version of the inventory, just because there are so many updates coming in the new version. We saw at CitizenCon. Well, we didn't see it at CitizenCon. We saw we kind of did in the Squadron 42 video for the looting. And I feel like that is like an add-on to the big overhaul of the overall inventory system.
Yeah. Well, but it also, like, I think a lot of what we saw this year was them figuring out what they actually needed to add to that new inventory system. So, like, adding a new move all button was one of those things. Like, yeah, we should probably add a new move all button to this when we overhaul it. Let's just do it. And if I can't imagine the code being that different, because they both use building blocks. So
yeah. Potentially, yeah.
Anyways, just in general, I feel like 3.21 was the first patch that felt positive in my mind for this year. Like 3.20 was whelmed, but for me, 3.21 was the first like, yes.
Yeah.
And it was the tractor beams, the SRV. That was such a huge change for me. So.
Ship tractor beams as well, on the Hull C, not just the big handheld one. I think I also saw, I don't know whether it was in a PTU when they were testing it, but one of the small one, the multi-tool, had a battery and it would drain quickly.
Yeah. I think
I think it's now. It is in now, but it was a couple of patches ago.
I think they took it out because they didn't have the battery for the big one yet. Yep. So
or a way to charge batteries or replace batteries. Yeah. But yeah, that is a reality that's coming. So not only will that hinder the ability to move heavy objects, but also EVA locomotion. So you will have to do the grabby hands thing. Yeah.
All right, let's go with 3.22, and I'll start with this one because it's the last patch of the year. Then I'll go Darge, Red Monster, and Radar Ranger for this one. 3.22 added the player hair update, so it replaced all of the hair with the new hair tech, and added new hairstyles. It added beards. It added 15 new player or new derelict settlements, which I was just insanity. It's 15 new player,
which is more than the frame rate you got when 3.22 went live for the first time.
Yes. It added structural salvage or Thanos snap, or AKA vibration salvage, whole vibrator.
Liquefaction.
Yeah, liquefaction.
I get it.
It added the cargo containers, so you could actually buy up to, I think, 8 SCU of cargo containers that you can store stuff inside of.
That's another big foundational thing that everybody's going to need moving forward.
Yeah, because they're going to get rid of the inventory for the ships, so you're going to have to use those boxes. Now, I don't think you're going to get rid of all of the inventory for the ships. I think you're just going to have to go to inventory boxes inside the ship, so like your own.
Yeah, but those will be a lot smaller. They won't have like 1,000 SCU of.
Yeah, you go to like a cupboard and you open it and you can put your Buster bars in that cupboard, but you're not slapping your F-55 in that boy anymore. You gotta actually use like the weapon racks, and you have to use like the suit storage for suits and stuff like that. So if you don't have suit storage, you're gonna have a crate, because that's probably big enough to fit it in there in the first place. So,
or standalone suit storage, like all of these things that some ships come with, should be something that you'll be able to attach to the cargo grid, so it lives there permanently, like a toilet and a cutlass, for instance.
like an optional add-on, the Cutlass Black Deluxe Edition. So you can get a toilet installed. You
can have a Drake bucket.
It is a Drake logo spray painted over a Home Depot bucket.
And then we also got Arena Commander. We got 3 new Arena Commander maps. and we are continuing Arena Mechanic maps. I think we got a couple other ones too that were added for not for racing but for combat. And we got multi-crew spawn and spawn locations for Arena Commander. And we got the Santok Yai, we got the X1, the X1 Velocity, the X1 Force, and the Cutter Rambler. So it doesn't seem like there was a ton of stuff. The structural salvage, I think, is the biggest one. I also think that the structural salvage is one of the biggest, I would say, controversies of Star Citizen, because the structural salvage is the first time that I've seen CIG give up.
I don't know if I would say they gave up. I mean, they clearly ran into a blocker and they had to make a decision, get it out now in a workable form or come back and tackle it later. Like they even said it on one of the ISCs, trying to cut up an 890 into chunks that were small enough to consume in a smaller ship was impractical because it just overloaded the system too much.
Yeah.
I what I'm curious to know is whether or not, like, how is what the hell is the technology? Medusa. What is the
it's
technology?
Maelstrom.
Maelstrom. Thank you.
Yeah.
What I'm kind of curious to know is how that's going to solve the problem, because you still ultimately have chunks.
So my point about that is I think this is the first time I've seen CIG look at a feature and just said, we can't do that. We have to do something completely different. They what was it? The thing that they did before PES, they were trying to do before PES, iCache. They iCached structural salvage. So originally it was like, oh, we're going to take it, the claw is going to pull it up, or your track rooms pull it up and like throw your chunks in the little thing, it's going to put processed. And they're just like, no, we've abandoned that. And I think even if when they do tier 1 and do future updates, I think this is the future of salvage, which is the reason why they wanted to get it out early, because they wanted to get feedback to see how it functions and everything else like that before they added more gameplay to it.
I think the biggest reason why the entire community was in an uproar is the Reclaimer lost the claw.
Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
That was how do you go through and have a ship that's released for years with a feature we've all been staring at that claw since how long?
Yeah,
right. Claw. And we're like, you know what? We would love to have that thing reach out and grab it. And the first time we get to actually play around with it, they've changed it to somebody's called it
the straw.
Yeah,
it's a bug zapper with a vacuum hose behind it, right?
Well,
they might be going this direction with it. You know, I'm assuming it's going to be permanent, but that's a big change.
Anybody who's seen a ship try to go up in an elevator can understand. I knew just from looking at that the claw was going to be rough to do.
Yeah.
You know, the physics and trying to have a claw munch down on a ship like that was probably going to be a little bit difficult.
Now, I do think they're going to get a little bit more. It's not going to just Thanos snap it away and then like it is like little dust and suck it up. I don't think that's going to be the case in the future. I think it's still going to be chunks, but I think like the problem is that if you look at the Reclaimer and you look at what we're getting for salvage, the Reclaimer was built so far ahead of time that it's now completely. Yeah, it does not function.
Yeah,
it is.
They didn't bring in a docking collar to it properly, right?
It's basically a useless ship. I mean, it's technically it's been stapled together. It's been stapled together to function, but it's like the only reason why it's good is because it's the larger salvage ship. But the interior is a mess. It has no docking bay. The whole now the claw doesn't work. It has an entire like mulcher section, which was supposed to be look for cool, that is now completely useless, and I don't think will ever be used in the same way that they wanted to do it. And I think this is the first time I've been following Star Citizen where like a gameplay CIG has stepped back on gameplay ambitions. And I think that's the controversy for it. And I think the Reclaimers is the poster child for that. But yeah, it's the first time to see.
But they have mentioned that Maelstrom they will see what options Maelstrom gives them once that is operational. I would say that the Claw will make a comeback on the Reclaimer, and it will get additional arms so it can break up smaller parts. You'll still be able to do that, but I would like to see that, but we'll just see how powerful Maelstrom is.
Yeah.
'Cause they threw in a lot against Maelstrom. It's like
I think there's a couple of key points about Maelstrom. First is, breaking up ships, but then implementing it on mineable deposits. Right now, we've got the potato-shaped asteroids and surface deposits. You're going to want something a lot larger to throw your Arastra or your Orion at. And I feel like Maelstrom is kind of a logical step to use there, but it's all going to be performance-driven. I do think the Reclaimer, it has almost enough duct tape to be rebranded to a Drake. Right, the amount of times they've had to patch that ship together, and I mean,
always looked like a Drake as well.
Yeah, that grinding room is, I'm disappointed it's not going to be used right now. With Maelstrom coming in, maybe that's going to be there, but you could write an entire 8-part series about the saga of the Reclaimer's elevator.
Yeah, just that alone,
right?
But I want to say that the future for some sort of grinding on the ship is still a thing, because even though they updated the look of the munching door on the Vulture, it still has the wheels.
Yeah,
so their current version of the Vulture still has so if this
still has his teeth
version was final, so the beam actually completely dissolved whatever you're supposed to be salvaging. There would be no need for the big the wheels in the bottom to munch it even further.
We talked about this last time because we talked about 3.22 as a patch review, and I came to the conclusion that I think the Reclaimer needs to bite the bullet, and they need to do what they did with the Cutlass. If you remember what they did with the Cutlass, when it was not just flying bad, they had to completely
made it better.
They ground up, redid the whole thing with using the same shape language, but they had to make it bigger.
I wonder how much the Reclaimer fits into Squadron 42, where they might not be able to do that.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the reasons why that ship came out first.
Yeah, it's because it's part of it is. We know it's in cutscenes of Squadron 42. We know it's a thing that's a Squadron 42 ship. So, but I think once that comes out, when Squadron 42 comes out, they're gonna have to go back and go, we're gonna change this and just say this was an older Reclaimer and this is the new Reclaimer. So
they've done it with the Connie.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We know unprecedented.
We know that's one of the reasons why the Freelancer isn't getting updated, because we know the Freelancer's in Squadron, because there's at least one major shot of a frozen Freelancer. So, there's a couple of things like that. So, but I mean, I think overall 3.22 was a positive.
Can I go on a bit of a rant? Like
we're already well over.
I know.
No rants allowed.
But you agreed to get me on this show. You knew what you were getting into.
Rant mode on.
It's the whole thing. It's like the different parts of the community screaming, this ship needs an update, and this ship needs an update, and that ship needs an update. No, they're just old, busted, outdated ships, just like cars. It's like you have a 97 Corolla, just because you're screaming at the top of your lungs that my car needs an update, Toyota's not going to give you a new model for it.
Yeah, but
they'll make you buy a new one that has all the new stuff that you want, but they're not just gonna replace the old one.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's also a video game where people paid money for a ship and they want the ship to function the way it's supposed to. Yeah.
Honestly, I think the Reclaimer is salvageable. I think they're gonna probably wind up reworking that docking collar and maybe a small section of it, and then they'll figure out the whole munching thing.
I think if they
Gold Pass is different. Gold Pass is different, but just completely change everything about a ship and just call it the same ship.
Well,
that's the sort of thing that I want to. It just doesn't jive with me. Yeah,
I think I just think that the Reclaimer is such a symptom. It's the poster child for Star Citizen's development, and the same way that the Connie is, where the Connie desperately needs an interior rework, but its exterior is fine. I think the Reclaimer's problem is that its interior layout is it's designed to be an homage.
Bad.
It's designed to be an homage to homage to Aliens, and
Yeah.
that's
Nostromo,
what it's designed to do. It's supposed to be the Nostromo, and as a result, it sacrifices usability and space, efficient use of space for nostalgia. And I think that's a bad. It's the same thing with Starfarer. The Starfarer is at least has no excuse.
Especially for a ship that's supposed to be an industrial focused.
Yeah.
Right. You're talking about people who want to make sure their path between components, all of that are efficient, good use of space. You're not hauling anything extra. And it's, I'm kind of torn. I love the ship idea. I think what they've patched together probably doesn't like blend up perfectly with, what I envision it being in the future. And that's I think where maybe CIG
if they changed the manufacturer, I think that would go a long way to make it to give it its own like proper place and diverse to live, because it is anything but an Aegis ship right now.
Well, the interior looks exactly the same as the Hammerhead. Like they use that as the basis for all their bigger ships. Like if you look at the interiors of the Idris and you look at the interiors of the Reclaimer, they're very similar because they use the shape language. So that's the problem. It's in this weird spot where it's in such a weird era.
This is for space geezers.
Okay.
And I want to just throw it out there as well that how many different light fighters, medium fighters, heavy fighters, right? And compare that to how many mining ships do we have, and how many salvage ships do we have?
Yeah.
Right. Isn't this game supposed to have an economy where people aren't blowing each other up all the time? Right. Yeah. And to have 2 ships doing salvage, right? I do think we're going to see new entrants, but
we definitely need another large salvager that's not Aegis, that's not the Reclaimer, and that may be the way to go. It's just
or something in between the Reclaimer and.
I can hear the Reclaimer owner screaming now.
Well, you just maybe like strap your best hot fixes to the Reclaimer and make it just limp along with working, and then you just release the new hotness that does the same thing as the Reclaimer but better, because that's what CIG does a lot of their ships.
No, what we need is a Vulture DS.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Oh God. You said the thing. I'll start with Radar Ranger on this one because I've already kind of gone over. My general feel is I think other than that, 3.22 feels like the best end of the year kind of patch we've had. It's actual quality of life. It's actual like performance improvements. It did release a little rough, but by now that they're all off on break, it just feels good. So
you know what?
Radar,
on top of that, it came in on the wave of CitizenCon, which everybody got high off of. And it was almost like 22 could do no wrong.
Yeah.
But I mean, they did have a lot of good substantial stuff in there. The Arena kind of multi-crew and everything was, I think it's still underplayed. I haven't even had a chance to get in there and play with a good group of friends and everything. But 322 is definitely a good patch overall. And like you said, I think it was the first. It was a great way to wind down the year. Everybody was definitely optimistic coming out of CitizenCon, and all the stuff that they added to it was. There was a lot of good quality of life things. There were a lot of good things for people to play around with. A lot of good scenery in the settlements to go check out and everything. So yeah, I thought it was great.
Red Monster, your thoughts? 3.22.
Yeah, structural salvage, like you said, I think they had a deadline to meet. Maelstrom was a key blocker that's preventing them from getting what they want eventually, but what they had ready now was there. And I mean, it's not great, but the other thing is you're making so much more money doing that than like mining, and it's much easier. Right. And I see it on the comments on my YouTube tutorials. Every time I put out a new video, somebody's like, oh, well, like I can waste my time mining or I can go out and salvage. It's like, okay. Yeah. Like it's broken amounts of money.
That's because they want you to test it, because they want you to play it. You know, so yeah.
But even then, I think the balance needs to be there. Like, with the hull scraping versus structural.
Yeah.
So
I think all that's going to come in crafting, because when you start making things that require certain components for what you want, if you look at any of the other games that are out there that have crafting, the materials that you use, the quality of them, and everything, basically all that salvaging and mining are all basically just different pathways for players to get
Resources.
the resource that they're going to need to build something they want, and that all, I think that's ultimately how it winds up getting balanced. Like Paul said, right now they definitely want people to go in there and play with it and break the hell out of it.
Anything else, Red Monster?
I mean, yeah, just the cargo containers are good. I like the X1s coming out finally. It seems like those have been long overdue, and I actually got to race those in the Ignition Expo this morning, so that was a pretty fun one.
What are they like?
I mean, they seem pretty stable. Anytime you're moving, doing your kind of yawing, it basically rolls on you, kind of like on a motorcycle. So
It feels like
you lose.
I just want a Ranger at this point.
Yes.
Just forget everything. Just give me the Ranger.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, had some high points. The low point, obviously, the structural salvage wasn't, the polished tier 0 still. I mean, this is like tier not quite 0, negative 0.5. So
yeah. Darsh, your thoughts, and then we'll get to the overall year discussion before we get into the conference, because we're already we're pushing an hour and a half right now. So
I like the stability of the patch. One thing that I thought we were getting in this year, and I'm severely disappointed. Maybe I'm jumping ahead in your discussion. Is where are the hauling missions?
yeah,
We got the new cargo. We got the big ships. Where are the hauling missions?
yeah, Elliot.
Yeah,
Elliot.
Mm-hmm.
Elliot.
But yeah, currently I'm actually jumping into the game and playing. It's a lot.
What do you do when you get in?
Right now I'm actually doing the Luminalia delivery
Package
missions.
Yeah.
Don't pick up the packages with the tractor beam.
It'll break it.
It does.
Yeah.
It doesn't trigger. It doesn't trigger the new thing. You have to pick it up with your hands. Then you can move it with the tractor beam.
Yeah.
But just don't pick it up the shelf. Yeah. But yeah, that's an old one. Is there new lore attached to that one right now? It's like you need to gather them. No. There's something
The
about
old lore.
gathering
The old lore
packages for destruction.
Maybe because there was packages. The new lore was the old lore was just a guy just didn't have enough time. He wanted you to pick it up and deliver it because he was swamped with other things. So because that's why it's a personal mission rather than like a regular salvo or a regular cargo mission. So yeah. Let's talk about the.
But yeah,
go ahead.
Here. It's not the new Calliope system that Sean Tracy showed off at Citizen Con, but
Calliope.
Right, same as the moon. But I'm one step closer to looking as fabulous in game as I do in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I need a shower.
I think they said the new character thing was coming out next patch, right?
Yes,
so that's when you
or within the next 6 months, but I think it's supposed to be next
6
patch,
months.
So.
Yeah, so could be 324, hopefully 323. Yeah.
So then you
but
can
yeah,
flip your hair
but
back
that's
and forth.
yeah. Well, you can already do that if you have the long hair.
If you have the tracker, you can do this, the head tracker, and it will 100% whip your hair back and forth.
Yeah, it looks great. But all the demos they showed off is without the damn temporal anti-aliasing that we still have in the game. Then they're also thankfully releasing, because when they remove that, it's going to look even better. There'll be no more dithering and ghosting and everything that is especially noticeable on transparent stuff like hair. But yeah, the new hair's great, and I hope they get many more styles in, because people like to do the pretty Barbie princess thingy in every game they do.
It's an MMO. I mean, it's that's how it works.
Yeah,
All
absolutely.
right, let's start with you again, Darsh, for this one, because this is we've kind of gone over every single patch. Now that we've kind of gone over the patch, goods and bads, is this year a good year or a bad year? Good year. Just simple.
Started off slow, just because 318, even though really good from a developmental point of view with persistent anti-streaming, bad from a gaming point of view because it just broke everything for a lot of people, for all people initially. But they were, and that was visible with the funding, and then how the stability improved and how all the new features made the game better is also visible in the funding, because we actually managed to overtake 2022 in terms of funding already. And capitalism likes that.
All right, Red Monster, same question. Good or bad year?
We had a year that's been more of a roller coaster.
Okay.
Right. Because with 318 and the pre-announcement of the wipe and just the lull in player interest overall, I feel like it started really, really slow. And then like a roller coaster with that jetpack acceleration part that ramps up, we got to the mid-year, and then CitizenCon, I feel like people weren't quite as hyped going into CitizenCon as I think they were expecting to be. And then we got to see the content that they're putting out, some big announcements coming in, and I feel like that's when it really accelerated. So what started off as really just kind of a drag, I feel like it turned it around. I don't think this level of hype was sustainable throughout the entire year, but I do feel like it's a good year, with the caveat that we were told like almost 2 years ago that development on the persistent universe is going to slow down. They're going to be a lot more quiet about it because Squadron's taking the focus. And we saw that for the first 9 months of the year. And then all of a sudden we got hit with a bunch of just hype generating. CitizenCon was amazing with what it delivered and talked about the features and the future of the game. And now we're seeing all these things going to be, now that Squadron's feature complete, we got the commitments starting next year, and of course, 2024, I think is going to be a lot better, but I do think 2023 shapes up on the balance to be on the positive. So
okay, Radar Ranger, your thoughts? Good or bad year?
Yeah, I say the same thing. Very good, honestly. Clearly it's weighted on the end, the second half of the year, but if you look at the full 12 months, absolutely, it was a good year. I think, Red Monster kind of hit the nail on the head. CIG had to make a tough call and focus on Squadron 42. It was a bit of a bummer for us because the consequences of that for all of us fanboys was that it was a very dry year for the first half. But I mean, look, in retrospect, they really needed to be able to put the focus on on that game, get the technology developed so they could ultimately get it back into our hands. They need to be able to get that game out, and I understand the business and the technical rationale behind it. And on top of that, they were coming out with some really significant milestone level tech implementations that were difficult and unforeseen. Running into unforeseen troubles, it kind of sucks, but that's kind of the nature of the beast. And I think that's kind of what made it such a triple whammy for this year. Not having the stuff to talk about because everything was being saved up for CitizenCon, having the technical issues delay putting in new implementations, and having them focus mostly on Squadron so that we weren't really getting a lot on the PU. In retrospect, I think this was the move that they had to take, but I think, again, to echo everybody else, CitizenCon was really phenomenal. It did kind of give everybody some assurances that they really were doing stuff. They weren't just yanking our chain. They showed a lot of it. I'm still cautiously optimistic and knowing that it's going to still take a while for a lot of that stuff to materialize in the PU. But I think every year is getting better with Star Citizen. And sometimes it's hard for us to see through the rage in some of the bugs that we run into, but clearly, they're putting together a really cool game. They really are putting in the work. They're passionate about it just as much as we are. And I think the second half of this year kind of showed everybody this is on the horizon. It sucked for the first year, but this is what you have to look forward to and just hang tight a little bit. And I think it worked. Most of us are all kind of like, okay, we'll take a breather and we'll wait.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I will say overall, my opinion of any kind of year when it comes to these sorts of kind of communities or games and anything is, are you ending the year on a better position than you started the year? And I would say Star Citizen has ended every year in a better position than it was in the previous year. I have never seen a backslide. I've seen some issues, like we've all seen the wonderful horrors of 2.0 and 3.0 when they came out. But at least 2.0 gave us the PU. 3.0 added our the ability to land on planets and kind of new ships and new traversable locations. Like, there was always a step forward, even if that was 2 step forwards, 1 step back. It was always forward movement. And I think this year was a good year of, I think we talked about, there were so many little quality of life improvements that it made the game function better. Like, there's a new player experience in Microtech. They moved it to Microtech. It was originally in Area 18, and they did that in 3.2.2. No one really mentions it. It's not even in their trailer.
They didn't move it to Microtech. They added it to Microtech.
Yeah, they added it.
It still exists. It still exists in
Area 18.
In Area 18, yeah.
But I mean, it's like, it's in their patch notes. It wasn't even in the trailer. Like, they usually... It's not in their trailer. The gameplay trailer, they don't talk about a new player experience in Microtech at all.
Because it's meant to be like taken for granted now that it's good, and but signage is really good now.
Yeah,
and it really points out how bad it still is in Lorville and Orison now.
Oh, yeah, but if you look at it, it was 2 years ago. What was the famous one in 2020? Was it 2020 2021? The coffee vendor? Like, they made a big deal about the coffee vendor, and everyone ate them alive for it.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't even and the bed sheet deformation. They haven't even mentioned the new player experience being added to Microtech, even in ISC. I don't think Jared even mentioned it in ISC ever. It's one of those things they kind of talked about in the monthly reports, and they added it in 3.22. And that's huge. That's great. That's those sorts of things. When we start to see things that are being added to the game where CIG doesn't make any big deal about, but are actual, like, fundamental quality of life improvements or new additions to the game, I think that's a good sign. And so overall, I'll say that this was a year that started off incredibly rough. Probably one of the worst experiences I've had in Star Citizen, but it ended in a year where I am more positive about Star Citizen's overall, like, future than I have been in a long time. I actually kind of think that CIG might actually do the things that Jared said they were going to do in the next 6 months. Like, I'm almost like I can see them hitting some of these milestones rather than me sitting there going, that's not coming in until the end of next year. Like, this is the first Citizen Con where I'm like, okay, so this is actually coming in 6 months to a year rather than 2 years, maybe TM. Yeah. With that said, I think we all kind of been positive it was a good year. I think with some caveats, with an asterisk. It was a good year with an asterisk, with a giant asterisk. With
the last quarter saved
it. A giant asterisk is called an obelix.
I would say it was a good 4 months.
Yes,
that carried the other 8.
Other 8. Yeah, a good last third. That last third was a hell of a last third.
No, but if you watch sports ball, it's all about how you end the match, not how you start it.
Yeah. Did you get to the playoffs?
Sports ball.
Sports ball.
Did you get to the cup? All right. With that, we're gonna move over to the question and answer session. So stick around if you're listening to this on the podcast version. I know I will have dropped all 3 episodes of the last 3 episodes on the same day because I keep forgetting to upload them. But I'll be better about it in the future. But you'll just hear a cut and we'll kind of move on to the next one. But yeah, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the question and answer session with Darionator, Radar Ranger, and Red Monster SC for the not the last show of the year, but the kind of year wrap up show. We'll be back again next week for another show where we're going to be looking at the future of next year. So I figured we'd do a nice retrospective for this one. With that,
you have to say it like the guy from SpongeBob.
The future. Future. Yeah.
That's one. Yeah.
All right. So the first question comes
Squidward.
from
Squidward. Never seen an episode. I know all the memes though.
Death Troopers 11177 asks, what 3 major milestones do y'all need to have in 2024 for it to be the year for Star Citizen for you? I'll start with Red Monster this one because I'm interested in hearing what Red Monster's take is.
Base building.
Okay.
Base building that they've promised starting development. That's going to tie into the crafting, which is also huge. And then I think we need to see Maelstrom implemented across a couple of different use cases, specifically ship munching, the structural salvage portion, and I want to start seeing asteroids use that because that's going to be the stepping stone into Orion and capital class mining gameplay. As an industrial focused player, those are, the reason why I mine, the reason why I go out and salvage is to be able to build my own base, right? And absolutely 100%, I want to see base building. I bought the Arastra. I pledged a Pioneer finally this year, having it been on my wish list for years. I think those 3, base building, crafting, and that final piece, Maelstrom.
Wait. Do you think they're gonna have base building in, or you just want to see that they started on it?
I think we will have some version of the Rastar system in players' hands by the end of the year.
Okay. So yeah, I was going to say that because the question is like, what are the 3 major milestones that will have to be in for it to be your year? But yeah, so I was going to ask, do you think we're going to get the full system? Because we're definitely not getting the Pioneer next year. So
yeah, I don't think the Pioneer is going to be functional, but I think we're going to get something in players' hands to start. Yeah. They talked about the Galaxy having the module as well. I don't think we're going to get the Galaxy yet, but some player base, it might be an Arena Commander mode where we can go and test it out without having to have the ship.
Or like a tech preview.
Well, you know what? They showed at SitCon a small portable thing for building small stuff. I bet you they're going to start with something like that.
Yeah. And then there's also the one that looks like it was attached. Well, then it was also one that was attached to the Atlas chassis. That was obviously
that's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, that's the one that's
smaller than that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I think that's what they're going to do. They also talked about using the Arena Commander modes as like preview channels for engineering gameplay. I think potentially something like that where we get an interface to start building a base we can go and explore. Talking about how that tool might work if we have the ability to to assemble the pieces together, right?
Okay. Darionator, what are the 3 things that they need to add? 3 features they need to add, or milestones? 3 major milestones they need to add to make it the year for you.
I want to go with more of a player experience focused. I want that to be the point of 2024. So, star map, radar, visor, interaction mode. I'm grouping that as one thing because it basically is the interaction mode with everything, how you look and interact with the verse. Vulcan and everything it brings with it, ray trace, global illumination, and
VR
performance. Don't care.
It will.
I got like
VR,
5
though.
things.
I don't
want 3. I gotta have 5 things that I want.
Okay. What's the last one?
EVA, the new EVA.
Okay.
Just because that's going to bring like more tactility to being a spaceman. Right now, it's just you push forward and you keep pushing forward, and it's like you're piloting a car. But especially the way we saw the NPCs handle EVA. That scene in this Quarter 42 trailer, they all jump out of the baddie Cutlass, just like,
and then they start leaning forward, like you would see.
The Iron Man thing,
Raider Ranger, your 3s that have to be to make this year the year for you, this next year.
I'll give you my 3 and then my 2 bonus. So the first one, they've already kind of committed that they're going to do these. So if they don't, it's really going to be a bad year. Server meshing and bigger player counts.
Okay.
And Pyro. That's 1.
Yeah, that counts as 1. All of those are the same thing. So
that's all 4.0.
Yeah. I'm going to echo Red Monster, and if they actually put some form of base building in, that would be huge for me. I was blown away when they talked about it at CitizenCon. I was not expecting them to cover it, but like him, I'm to me, base building is something that gives you purpose in the game, and it brings in your friends. It gives you a purpose for all that mining and everything else. It gives you conflict, player generated content, all the good stuff that makes a good MMO a good MMO. So if that's on the list and we're allowed to say that, then yes, absolutely that. Oh crap! Now I lost them. I forgot which ones were my optional ones. Yeah. I'm gonna say the Idris.
Okay.
And that has a lot of implied implications behind it. He said that we would. John Cruz said we would get the Idris when Squadron 42 releases. I have a feeling, there seems to be some reasonable sentiment that they're at least going to announce a date for it next year. If we can get the Idris in game next year because they've tackled server meshing and larger player counts, that would absolutely blow away my year. That would make it a huge killer year for me.
There have been very updated interior meshes for the Idris in the game files.
So I've heard. So. Well, somebody announced, I don't know if this is taboo to talk about this, but I think somebody said that there was some kind of mission to take over an Idris or defend an Idris or something like that, which I think would be phenomenal. I would be all over that, and I'm not even a big FPS guy. The two optional ones are some of the obvious ones. The star map, we know we're going to get that, but that's a big, to echo what Dar said, that's a user experience thing that we absolutely need to have because it's been kind of crappy until then. The last optional one is VR. There was a dev a while ago that had kind of professed in Spectrum that he would work on it in his spare time at home if he needed to.
That was the head of. He's the head of the guy who's doing the integration of Vulkan.
Oh, okay.
It's not Pascal. It's what's his name?
I don't know the name, but I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
he's Sylvan.
I remember watching him. Yeah, I just don't remember his name. But even if it winds up being just restricted to like a hangar, an offline mode or something like that, where you can walk around the ships, I'd be happy with that. When I played Elite Dangerous, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world to be able to fly that ship in VR, and it was really spoiled me and defined a new expectation for me in space games. And
the new cockpit experience is going to be perfect for VR.
Oh yeah,
I agree. So if they can manage to at least tease us, they will have hopefully had Vulkan and all of the upgrades in and get the legacy code, graphics code, rendering code out. If they could tease us with some kind of hangar based, VR experience where we could walk around our ship, that would be a great Christmas 2024 present.
Oh, hangar module 2.0. I'm all for it.
Right.
For me, I'm going to be pretty simple. For me, it's cargo missions. Cargo missions need to be in because cargo seems to be the big one, and I'm going to lump in the cargo elevators and the new hangar stuff. All of that stuff is important because at heart, I'm still a completely legitimate trader. Do not ask any more questions. I'm an entrepreneur. All right. That's how I play in Star Citizen and how I will always play. And
legitimate businessman.
Yes. And with that, I also want scanning. The new scanning needs to be added into the game because that is so important for exploration. It's important for me not getting caught when I am doing my legitimate business. It makes the actual gameplay loop that I want to do fun and engaging because it means that I have to figure out how to make myself add stealth. Like the new scanning being added in, it adds a ton of different things to the gameplay, as well as they obviously are trying to get it done because they have the cutter scout, plus a bunch of other stuff they're trying to do. So,
I just had an idea. You know how we're getting already have these new cargo containers.
Yeah,
you could have shielded ones that maybe don't have as much volume as the normal ones,
or spoofed.
But yeah, exactly. So when you're scanned, it fools the scanners, but if law enforcement actually boards your ship, they'll be able to find it. But if
it'll say potatoes. But when you look at them, and you're like, that's a lot of drugs for potatoes.
What would keep people from just buying all of them and always using them though?
Because they're expensive, and they also have less. They'd hold less volume.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't be as. So they're like you buy an ASEU cargo crate, but it only holds one. So it's like, you're using more space and maybe costs power, or it has a power requirement where you have to constantly a resource that you have to re-up because it has to be powered to function as a spoof. There's lots of things you can do with that. It adds more weight.
It runs on smuglonium.
Yes.
Smuglonium.
Yeah. So those sorts of ideas. There's lots of things for that, and it'd be great. And the thing is that we're getting to the point where CIG could implement that as long as they had the scanning stuff in, because they have all of the other pieces to that puzzle. And the last one to make it the good this year is if they release Squadron 42. If they release Squadron 42 by the end of this year, it would be the year for Star Citizen, because it would be the final year that people would be like, that CIG could be like, well, Squadron 42. It's like, no. We're done with that. I like Squadron 42. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to the sequel after that. But now you have no excuse. Go.
So what do you think? What do you think the odds are of that happening?
I think I would say it's a 60-40 shot that it's not going to happen. I think it's going to get.
I think they will announce it at the very least.
I think what they'll do.
Starfield had a year of polish, and it needed a lot more.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Star Citizen. I think Squadron 42 in general they'll get to about 6 months out from their internal date, and my guess is their internal date is November of 2024, and they're going to get around May or June, around Invictus, and they're going to go, it needs 6 more months. We need 6 more months of polish. And so then they'll go in, they'll do 6 months of polish, and then there'll be a toss-up between releasing it in the summer of 2025 or the fall of 2025.
I think plenty of rationale for them to wait until CitizenCon to announce it.
Yes.
And that gives them that extra 6 months you're talking about.
Yeah.
And to soften the blow, have Mark Hamill announce it.
Yeah, or something like that.
I would be okay with that.
As a video.
I'll be all right.
Even as a video, if like Mark Hamill on video talking about it,
Yeah.
I'm actually like already planning on what we're gonna do at JRDF for launch of Squadron 42. Are we waiting with the 1-100 Gladius to launch with Squadron 42? Are we doing it now, or are we doing the F7 Mark II?
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Well, I mean, like the 1-500 Idris.
1-500 Idris would be this big.
It'd be huge, but that would also be that would definitely be a Squadron 40 dual 50
take
run.
my money.
Only
I've
50,
got plenty of space back there. I'm just,
You have plenty.
I got a
of
garage.
money.
Yeah, you could sell something. You could sell that for like $300, and people would still.
I got an
buy
extra
it.
kidney. I think
300.
Oh, easy.
300.
Yes, easy.
More like 2,000.
2,000.
Idea how big? It's just gonna be this. Look,
the
it's not just gonna be a monolithic thing. It's gonna be like the front opens. There's a gladius inside and everything. So yeah.
Yeah.
This is JRDF we're talking about. We don't do things half-assed.
Hey, you know what?
We take pride in our craft.
Games Workshop sells a Titan. Okay, if they can sell an entirely like hard resined, full resined Titan, you can sell a $1,000 Idris for limited like 50 run or whatever. So
no. The biggest issue is Games Workshop knows they will sell tens, if not hundreds of thousands of those.
Oh yeah.
We
for Squadron 42 though, for Squadron 42, people will buy it. People will buy it.
Well, for the collector's
be...
kit, what is it?
Yeah.
I got the Starfield suitcase thing.
Yeah.
If they did something like that for Squadron 42, sign me up. I'll take it.
Yeah, collector's edition with the Idris.
The Stanton, the UES Stanton box. It's
no. The Idris is the box. So you open it up and you have the Gladius. The Gladius is a USB drive with Squadron 42 on it.
There we go.
Look at the quality on that thing. Put something like that out for Squadron 42, and you got a home run.
No, yeah.
So
that's more of a internal CIG merch thing, though. We're not internal CIG, so yeah.
Make it a ship
that's the
like
thing.
that.
Yeah. Most people don't know we exist. That's the issue.
Yeah. But I mean, if and this is just a big if, when CIG announces that it's coming out, you were able to go onto that same
Mhm.
stage and be like, oh, and our partners at JRDF
Oh, yeah.
are selling a
Yes.
limited run Gladius.
Sure,
You know,
I'll call CR now and arrange that.
well, you could, but
You
I
know
mean, you
he's
could,
gonna want one.
This is
could
true.
you could call, I know people that people who you could call right now and be like, if you announce we want to talk to you about this for a special promotion for whenever this happens. You could do that. Like, don't give me that it couldn't happen. It could 100% happen. You would just need to do the groundwork. Stop being lazy, Darsh.
I'm not being lazy. I'm working on a Raven. Shit. I was supposed to say.
I knew it.
Confirmed.
I knew it.
All right, so, but I mean, yeah, that was my thing. Do I think that last one's going to happen? No, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm more leaning towards it's going to get delayed, or delayed. It's not even announced, so it's going to not going to be released next year. But if they release Squadron 42 and cargo stuff and scanning, I would be the happiest bartender in the universe. It'd just be like, thank you. I am set for the rest of this my experience, because I already know they're going to do resource system that's going to have to be in the game next year. So the HUDs and all those other things are going to be good. Those have to be in the game because it's just like they have to be in. I don't know when, but sometime next year. But yeah. All right. Next question, because we've only got we actually got pretty limited numbers this time. Half-Orston asks, are the Luminalia Day 11 glow sticks edible? They're edible once.
Yeah.
Everything's edible once.
Like mushrooms. Everything's edible once.
Mm.
And then we already answered that one from Gin and Tonic. Trouble Magnet asks, should they have kept the Port Olisar name for the new station model?
Nope.
No.
No.
No. They need to bring it
coming
back.
Port O is
As
coming
Port
back.
Olisar.
Yeah.
In an appropriate role.
Yes.
Not as the main port for one of the biggest ship manufacturers in the verse.
I would go so far as to say CIG, if they're going to bring Port Olisar back, needs to go in and make Port Olisar functionable and make it like a Star Marine map, kind of like a Security Point Korea, but like as a major like conflict location. Maybe have it be derelict and taken over by the Nine Tails or by some other group, something like that. So
yeah.
Trouble Magnet asks, oh yeah, I think we already got that one. I think we're all agreed on that one. They shouldn't have named it.
Yeah, and give it a new name. It's a new station, new structure. I think you get a new name.
Yeah.
Shabasta asks, Radar Ranger, where were you into space games before Star Citizen? And if so, does developing your satellites at your current company make Star Citizen more exciting? I think you answered some of this in chat already, but
yeah, a little bit. So, I've been playing space games for a long time, probably before most of you guys were born. I used to play one of the coolest games that I really got into early on was TIE Fighter by LucasArts. Mm-hmm. That game was phenomenal because it was one of the first 3D games you had, and you could replay the missions. So when you play the campaign, you play the level out, you could actually replay the whole thing to see how you screwed it up. And I don't know, the idea of being able to zoom the camera around and look at the ships from different angles when you were blowing them up and everything, it was a really cool game. That kind of set the tone for me, I think, early on for wanting a game like Star Citizen, because there was so much in that game that you could really have a lot of fun with and play, but the visuals were left mostly up to your imagination because we were dealing with 90s, 3D polygons.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there were even polygons. Were there even polygons at that point, or is it just wireframe?
They're polygons.
No, it was poly. Yeah, it was full.
Yeah, it was
textured. Yeah,
it was textured. It was poorly textured, but it was like 1991 or 1990. Yeah. It was around the same time as the first Ring Commander is when it came out. I think it was actually predated by a little bit. So
yeah, Wing Commander is another one I used to play with a friend of mine around that. Well, it was still in the 90s time frame. I think TIE Fighter was a little bit earlier, but I used to play Wing Commander with a friend of mine, and we would tag team each other, and we'd try to get through a level. And if one of us started losing really bad, we'd hand it over. And did it make? I think the question was, did it make doing satellites more interesting? I think. I don't know if I would link the two. I think just internally, like I said at the beginning, I'm an uber nerd, with Star Citizen and space and technology in general. So I think the games are just part of the underlying drive to do stuff like that. Play around with technology and do something cool with it.
Yeah. So Triple Magnet asks, Darj, do you have a model of the penguin? And if so, is it painted? I have the model here. I can show you. It is not painted yet, but I will paint it at some point. But you can kind of see, it's really hard to see, but you can see it there. The little pattern, the checkered pattern.
I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of that. Because all of that is textures in the game. None of it is geometry, so I have to go in and add all of that. I don't have it yet, but one of the painters that works closely with JRTF is actually handling that.
Is it Bog?
No, he's US based. It's Steel Mary.
Okay.
He's from Berlin, and he has my penguin right now, and he made it with the white, black, and blue skin.
Ooh,
nice. And he's making a diorama. He keeps expanding on the project, even though keeps telling him it's fine, just it's fine as it is.
He's a hobbyist. We don't go minimal. We go, if we can go larger, we will do it. Like this is not done yet.
Don't tell me it has to stay a certain size,
This isn't done yet. I have to do this. And on top of this, I'm going to build a base platform for this that's going to match all of the textures so that I can put them together in a tray, and it looks like a diorama in the tray while I carry them. Why? Because I'm stupid. That's why. And that's all of us. All us modelers are stupid, and we love doing this sort of thing. It's fun.
His current idea is to have a diorama thing where the background is a smeared version of a hanger, so it looks like it's launking out of a hanger, and it's got motion blur on. Yeah,
that's cool.
It is, but he's been working on it for like 3 months now.
It'll get done. But when it's done, it's gonna look cool as hell. Yeah.
See, this is why I don't have it. Yeah, I will soon, and I will. Soon. Yeah. But yeah. In terms of what kind it is, it is the 1 to 500 as Paul showed.
Yeah.
1 to 100 is not in the plans to be made. As soon as we have our site back online, because we're currently moving production from Scotland to USA, just because like over 75% of our clientele was from the States, even with the extra shipping costs. So it was only logical to do that. Once we have our site back online and we can see what sells, that will inform us which kits to go with next. And hopefully it will be an Avenger, because I do like the penguin.
Yeah. And that's the other thing that's important to note, is that it's if they can get this to sell, because like this alone was like, I want to say $20 or something like
25,
that.
25, something like that.
So yeah, like you can get
and
this.
You get 4 of them.
You get 4 of them for $25, and the problem was that with JRDF, it was $25 shipping. So it was $50 for this. But if it's from the US, it'll be $28 for 4 little things, and it's already assembled. You just have to paint it, and it has its own bases, which happen to have the same base style and input as X-wing or the X-wing
TIE Fighter.
TIE Fighter, the X-wing or the X-wing miniature game. So
for
no reason.
Is there going
for no obvious reason?
Yeah.
Is there going to be an official, or is there already an official like X-wing rule set?
Always in the works. Always in the works.
Yes,
it's always in the works. Yeah.
All I can say is NDA. I can't fully talk about that one, because I actually do work with JRDF. When I say I work with JRDF, I mean Darj will or Cals will shoot me and be like, hey, is this right? Does this lore sound right? Does this blurb sound right? I'm like, yeah, it's fine. All right. We got the last 2 questions. Like I said, it was some pretty small questions for this one, but we still 30 minutes in the question section. Silky Z68 asks, with the Legionnaire in the pipeline for release next year, do you think it'll come with hacking tier 0? That's a good question. Radar, what do you think? Do you think we're getting hacking next year?
Oh, it's possible. I mean, If they really are moving everybody over from Squadron and they're getting a lot more gameplay engineers in there to come up with it, I think for 2024 or 2025.
2024.
The Legionnaires coming out next year. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe. They already have a game design document for it, right? I think for hacking.
They had one. Yeah, they built one.
Did they actually start it at one point and then they had to pull off of it?
Yeah, that was that. They started working on it. The thing is that we haven't seen a lot of actual working, like there's not been actual development on it, because I think a lot of that team is working on resource management right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think in order for them to come out with hacking, resource management would probably have to be in first, along with the new HUDs and new building blocks UIs for the rest of the ship, because otherwise they ain't going to make Flash stuff for that. So it might be a stretch.
Red Monster, what do you think? Hacking next year?
I think CIG's past the point where they're releasing ships without their gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
They should have learned by now not to do that. So yeah, if the Legionnaire is flyable, it should have its gameplay.
Okay. Darsh?
But you do know what other sort of gameplay Legionnaire requires, right?
Boarding.
Because it's meant to burrow through hull, right?
It's meant to dock on an exterior, and
then... but it's going to be completely useless for ships that have no docking ports.
Yeah, but that's also
unless it burrows like a Vandal. What is it? Not the driller.
Isn't that going to be like Maelstrom though? You have a focused zone with Maelstrom that burrow through.
They have the breaching charges as part of it too. What I'm hoping with the new salvage mechanic, the breaching charges are not going to be breaching charges; they're going to be vibro charges. So instead of like breaching, they just in one section just
after the table at night.
Just melt the door like
just melt a circle, melt a circle in it. Yeah, like just snap a door open. Can we get a clip of me going so we can keep it out of context?
Good man, get on it.
Yeah.
That's a 2024 meme.
Yeah.
Okay, so no, I'm just trying to recall the Squadron 42 scene, like the trailer where the Vandal burst through.
Yeah.
Is that just? Yeah. No. So they laser cut a hole, but it sort of cuts. But what happens to the circular bit? Does it just get pushed into the ship, or does it just dissolve?
I think it just dissolves. I don't remember it falling down. So
if it turned into debris and like tumbling rocks or something like that, that could be one way to deal with that.
Yeah. But whatever it is could be like it just dissolves because that's the part of how the cutter works. But if it doesn't, that would also imply that the cutter attachment for the multi-tool will be able to carve very very intricate penises into the hulls of the ship. Yeah.
Yeah.
The time to penis is always a thing. Yeah.
The time to penis will be very low.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if the Legionnaire is going to be making it next year. I think it might, but I agree with the whole like. I don't know. There's definitely it needs to have gameplay, and I think hacking gameplay is key for it. Though again, CIG is fond of saying we don't want to get a ship without its gameplay, and then just taking half the gameplay that it technically functions as, and then releasing it. Like
they're out for that. Could just say that boarding gameplay. If you really could only use it at a docking port, there's the gameplay. You know, FPS.
Yeah.
To answer your question, Darge, I just looked at the video, and at the very end, you don't see it coming through. You just see it already in the hull and spinning red.
Does the iris open?
The iris opens. Yeah, so that's why it looks like that.
Oh, okay. So something already happened to the hull. Before that.
Yeah.
Because it kind of feels like it opens with the beams still cutting a hole in the hull.
It looks like that, but I think that's just the sparks and stuff like that. So like damages to it. All right. So the last question we have. Oh no, we have two more questions now because half hour's gonna ask a couple. Forsten asks, when can I dock my 400i with a docking collar?
Ever.
They need the small docking collar because they have the big docking collar. They don't have the small one yet.
Where
That's
is
interesting
that?
to build that one.
I haven't seen anybody talk about ever.
It's like the circular one. It's like
Yeah, but I haven't seen anybody engineer-wise talking about.
Oh no,
where
yeah,
that is.
we're not getting one forever. Like they don't care.
Yeah.
It's not. It's one of those. They need to get so many fundamental parts in that and because you can land those. He's watching the video to see if it is.
Yeah.
This is a detail that is bothering me now. It's like
Yeah.
continuity is like
the fact
there
is
is
they've got one
debris that's
duct
flying
works.
away from the hull. But yeah, the thing that's shooting sparks, it looks like it is part of the Vandal ship itself, not inside the hull. Yeah, okay.
Right.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't. You're when are you going to get your 400i docking collar when the Endeavor is released?
Soon.
Oh, that hurt.
Oh,
Yeah.
ouch.
Yeah,
Ouch.
there's so many things that I'm going to use that. When can we get X? Probably after the Endeavor releases, and that thing's not coming out until after the Star Citizen releases. So, there's just other priorities. So, down the
list
road,
of priorities is longer than the number of employees, and they have like 1,300 of them right now.
yeah. Oh yeah. Northern Trooper asks, down the road, do you see if we will get ship brands for every gameplay loop, i.e. Drake mining, Anvil refueling? What do you think, Darsh? Do you think we're gonna get every manufacturer gets a crack at all of the professions?
Hope not.
Okay.
Like you need to keep the dirt off my pristine origin ships. Like
I was about to say an origin mining ship probably ain't gonna get over so well.
Yeah.
No,
It's definitely not an origin
there are
style
manufacturers that feel like they would have like crossover into various
Like RSI.
yeah,
RSI is gonna have
RSI,
one in everything.
totally. Yeah. They have a luxury one. They have exploration. They will gonna have a salvage or mining one, whatever. Or Astra is mining. Yeah, mining. Yeah. I actually had to think what Arastra actually means in terms of like human history.
Yeah.
So I could figure out what the role of the ship is. Brain.
So
But
the
yeah,
answer is no.
but Drake on the other hand is never going to have a luxury thing.
They could. It would be funny. It would be hilarious if they had a luxury ship.
But it would be a version of a
Toilet
Cutlass
seats.
with a gold-plated bucket for a toilet.
Yes, shag carpet, a disco ball inside.
And that is the Cutlass.
Padded seats
Yes, padded seats. Yeah.
instead of that metal prison looking thing.
Red Monster. Do you think we're going to see
Yeah,
every manufacturer?
I don't think we're going to see every manufacturer in each loop. I think there's going to be probably at least a secondary manufacturer for each of our current offerings, and a couple. I mean,
there's precedent for that. Yeah.
There might be a third if we're talking about specifically like alien manufacturers. Although I would say if I've got an alien mining ship, I want it to look very, very different.
Mhm.
The actual mining gameplay from that alien ship. Less of the laser beams and more. You talk about the Xi'an Gravlev tech. Maybe there's something that kind of goes out and vibrates around it, shatters the rock, and goes that way.
Nice.
Kind of like
That'd be
salvage, yeah.
amazing. So it just separates the chaff from the pure nugget of smuglonium.
Smuglonium.
Yeah.
Radar Ranger, what do you think? Do you think we're going to see every manufacturer have a loop, a foot in every loop?
No. I like what Red said, but from a practical standpoint, CIG needs to keep selling ships. That's their model at the moment, and it works. And I'm not complaining. They're going to have to probably double dip here and there, but like we said earlier, Origin's not really going to come out with a mining ship or a refinery, unless it's gold plated or something.
Thing is, Mercedes does everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they
have the S class, and
okay,
then
I
they
get
have
your
the
point.
Arctos trucks.
Yeah, but those
So
trucks are built by a
they-
different division. It's kind of like
Sure,
those trucks are
but
built
it's still
by
a
the
Mercedes.
equivalent of
Yeah, but what if
Mirai.
Origin comes out with what if Origin came out with an industrial version? You
Yeah.
know,
That's Misk
do
and
your
Mirai,
job in
right?
class.
The original 600 was a cargo ship.
That's true,
Hmm.
but that was before Origin had its identity. Like
Yeah, yeah.
I think we'd be more likely to see Origin have, as Red Monster said, a Mirai like an Origin, instead of having an Origin, brand, it would be like, Tough Mudder brand or whatever, and it's just a subset of Origin that
Yeah.
does.
Mm.
does
Like
Yeah,
an
commercial
Origin
stuff.
fighter
Yeah.
would be cool.
Yeah,
Yeah. So like Misk and Mirai is like Toyota and Lexus, but yeah, Mercedes would be like RSI. So there could be one brand that does it, but others I would say they're more specialized, and if they want to branch out, they would add a sub brand. Yeah, it's more like it. But can I attach a question to that?
sure.
Since we don't have many. Do you feel like there's room for another brand or more brands?
Oh, yeah.
In
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Kruger isn't even has two ships. Kruger could
Yeah.
have 5. CNOU has what, 4? Like main ships. It's got the Pioneer, it's got the Nomad, it's got the Hover Quad, and it's got the Mustang, and that's it. There's no medium ships. It has no large ships. It has no variety for it. Yeah, like we have enough brands that don't have enough to fill out. So I definitely could see more brands coming in. So
Yeah.
yeah. What do you think, Brad?
Like a new brand with no lore.
Yeah.
Like no past lore.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see a reason why they should limit themselves to what brands are there now.
Yeah.
New brands are going to pop up all the time here. It could just be, oh, hey, these guys were founded in 2954.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it feels like if you give a talented graphic like designer or an artist free reign to come up with something new that doesn't follow any of the design language of established manufacturers, that could be like a stepping stone towards creating a new manufacturer instead of starting out with an idea of a new manufacturer and then trying to create design for it.
Yeah.
Isn't that also how we got the attack?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because they kind of changed up how everything works with the Xi'an, because like they didn't really have the idea of brands, and then they're like, hey, we don't want to do Aopoa doing everything, and then they kind of came up with their own ideas behind it. So
Yeah.
all right, next question comes from Half Orston, who asks, will we see a sort of Orient Express sort of ride tour that is automatic ride through Stanton to Terra, basically like commercial flights? I think yes. That's what the Genesis is originally designed for.
Yeah, I even have fan fiction about it.
Yeah.
I've wrote it like just some ideas, but yeah, it pivots on there being established NPC ran routes with just both cargo and people transport. Yeah.
Are they going to be as reliable as the shuttles on Orison?
They're going to be as reliable as the trains in Italy.
Area 18 has gates, commercial gates.
Yeah.
For flights. So, I mean, those might just be for shuttles or whatever
So does
they're
Lorville.
Intended for, but you
I
could
think all of
absolutely
them
does
do.
it.
Yeah.
And New Babbage, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Lorville has gates for like going outside, I thought, but like
It has gates
maybe,
for
maybe they do.
Yeah, if you it's what they did is they have a section that's kind of in the back. It says flight arrivals,
Blocked
flight
off.
departures,
Yeah.
but it's
Right.
you can't go anywhere for it. So
Right. I mean, they're supposed to have a tour on Orison for looking at the whales,
yeah,
so it wouldn't be a stretch to expand it to take you around the.
Yeah, but that
systems.
requires both NPCs and NPC ships to not just be on splines, but actually be piloted properly.
yeah,
Yeah.
And I think that's something they want to do. They have the AI
Yeah, definitely.
for it,
Yeah,
but
it's how far down the kilometer-long list of priorities is it, though?
I think
Well, they
that's
do have
higher.
combat ships already, so.
I do think it's higher up there than you think, just because, especially if they want to start adding in more Death of the Spaceman mechanics, and once they start expanding the universe, you're going to need to have some sort of transportation to get you from point A to point B. Because if all your stuff is in, say, Lorville, and you die over in Pyro, and you respawn not in Lorville but in like Terra, that's 3 jumps away. And so you'd have to reclaim your ship and then go all the way back there, or pay for someone to ship it over to you. So having some sort of system that can be like, I can just hop on the ship, the local transport, and I'll be there by 2 hours, 3 hours.
No, but if it takes a lot longer, could you buy a ticket, board a ship, and log out?
Possibly, if you have like a bed, like if you
That would be neat.
Yeah.
And just wake up and log back in and you're there.
At the spaceport, yeah.
Yeah.
As long as you've paid your on-ship insurance, your protection fees.
I could see that as being.
I'm traveling everywhere business class, so
I could definitely see that being as a subtle way of doing fast travel, where like you get onto a ship, you can travel.
It's not exactly fast travel though.
Well, I mean, what you would do is you would either log out, or you would hit a button, and then it would say, give you a timer, and then you would it would
come back in an hour.
You would show up in a certain time period, and so it would still take some time, and you could either choose to like fast travel, or you can stay on there.
Sorry, but the way you worded that, you appear in a certain time period. Okay, Victorian England.
Yes. We're doing a Doctor Who game now, Darsh. Get on board, all right?
I was about to say something about the TARDIS.
But yeah.
That would be cool. I would love to see a dev just make a TARDIS somewhere and have it pop up in the middle of. I'm sure there would be legality issues with that, but.
Oh, definitely, yeah. But they are England based, and it's just they could just
cross
talk
promotion.
to someone.
Yeah, it's a green booth, not a blue one. See, it just looks really bluish. Right. All right. So the next question
it's not bigger on the inside; it's smaller on the outside.
I was about to say they got to come up with the trans-dimensional tech for that.
Wildy Coyote asks, what do you think is holding up Quanta in the new economy? Because they haven't been specific about it. But I think the quantum system is waiting for the resource system to be implemented and for AI tech to finish. I think they're just waiting for the resource system, the server meshing, the like removal, all of the things that are blocking server meshing plus resource system.
Yeah, I might. Let me cut you off. I was just going to say I might add consistent instances and persistence with the bugs worked out, because a good key underlying component of that, I think, is having permanent resources that are distributed around the systems that are persistent. And we're not there yet. That's the core of it, because that's what drives the reason why a lot of the virtual NPCs do their work, which drive the delivery and components that are, and ship parts that are being built. Basically, it seems like it's the bottom ground floor of it, and that's not in yet. We're still trying to get server meshing working and work through some of the database issues. So that would be my guess.
But is server meshing required for quantum?
Not so much server meshing, but the idea of having a consistent server that you can log into. Like right now, server meshing.
Right. Oh yeah. That would be replication.
A shard
stuff.
Yeah, you need something of permanence. Something that actually has a persistent resource distribution that can be consumed and used.
That's currently being tested on the preview channel. So if you have access to that, go help out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the issue, is that like they're at the point where the technology they need to develop technology that's critical for the game to function, for them to continue to work on it. I think that's just it. What do you think, Red Monster? Is there what do you think's holding it up?
I mean, I feel like the AI system getting the improvements that they've had right now, that's going to be key. This is the script that's going to automate and start. I feel like if it encounters any bugs, it's very quickly going to snowball into a server killing event. And I think the rest of their support systems need to be in place properly, and some cleanup, so that the AI system in general, they need to be able to actually have those AI pilots and being able to actually maneuver the routes and make it more of a realistic.
Okay. Darsh, what do you think?
Huh?
What do you think is holding back? You can already talk about it. So
yeah. Yeah. Uh, no, Red Ranger makes a good point. It is the server recovery, at least, so the simulation has a point to continue.
Mhm.
So it does. So there's as few interruptions to the simulation because it will have to handle several servers at the same time, and if they're crashing at different points in time, it'll have to compensate. And if it's an overreaching system, so the simulation will have to stop on all servers
Mhm.
to so it waits for one server to come back and stuff like
Just
that. So
like Red Monster saying,
yeah,
it can spiral out of control really quickly.
yeah,
Plus,
exactly, yeah.
virtual AI system isn't ready yet, and that has to interact
Mhm.
with the quantum, and because that's a
Yeah,
quantum going into virtual AI. Yeah.
Has a chance to become a virtual AI if it's being interacted with. Yeah, so
So
it's a huge system, and I kind of am sad that Tony didn't make an appearance at CitizenCon to give an
yeah.
update on it, and
And
hopefully they will find a time to have him do that in 2024 when there is um, good progress
yeah.
to report.
A lot of the team that was building the quantum system is now working on the economy team. So like there is a new economy team that is built specifically to balance the economy and going through some of the data. And I think what they're even though they had to pause, I do believe that that this technology, like them going through and fixing, like going through and looking at the economy now and trying to balance it with players in mind, will start to change how they function, like how the overall quantum will eventually be balanced. So that you can think of this as while they're pausing work on the quantum, they are working on the background information and more player focused rather than just systemic focused of like what it's going to be like, so that they don't have a 318 situation where they introduce the quantum and it breaks the whole game and they have to wipe it several patches to get it to function properly. So you know,
It would be good for an out of band appearance from Tony next year. Like,
oh yeah,
not necessarily for a big event. Have him do a special.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Let's talk
yeah.
about it. We definitely need to know what's going on, because that would be something that would be nice to know from Tony, like why they paused it, what they're
Yeah.
working on, what's the change, that kind of stuff. So, all right. Next question comes from Northern Trooper, who asks, "What do you think the performance this is the last one. What do you think the performance or the longevity of Crash Recovery in tech preview over the holiday will be? Will it survive CIG's break?" Darsh.
They uncharacteristically pushed out the patch 6 days before going on break, so they had enough time to get the initial bugs out of the way. So I'm hopeful that it will actually hold out this time around,
How about for
and
3.
there won't be
That,
a lonely dev CG offices having to patch the servers because someone decided that if they put a Pico into 400i and crash a 400i into the station while Quanta's updating, it just crashes the entire server. So, yeah, yeah.
But how about for the tech preview? Because I think they're going to be running the tech preview over the break as well. Do you think it's going to survive?
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
That's dumb. That's dumb.
Was that was the core question? Because I missed it. I was typing to somebody over here.
The core question is effectively, how long do you think the tech preview will survive with its crash recovery system? Because right now, for those of you who don't know, if you go into the tech preview and the server 30Ks, you have this thing where you're just kind of like, and the whole world just kind of bouncing.
Yeah.
And then after a few minutes, it just comes back, and then
They're
they're
doing that
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the first tech preview was just
Yeah.
data
they added
migration
that in the
from
last
DGS to. Oh, I had no
Yeah.
idea, and now I'm
Yeah, that was, I believe, I was hearing reports that it was happening in the last tech preview, and like the one that just happened, and apparently they're keeping it. This is Northern Trooper saying that it's keeping it up over that. So
Yeah, I think it's going to be a run to fail moment.
Yeah.
And
I think there'll be a lot. Probably exactly what you wanted to say, but it is going to be the times between crashes going to be decreasing until it's like completely crashed all the time.
yeah, What were you going to say?
I logged into it. I've been checking it out, and it's still up. Seems to be running fine. But the only thing is, every time I've looked up at the top right, it says that replication layer is not enabled.
Okay.
Oh,
and they said they were going to kind of split it.
You're in the control group then.
Right. Yes. I wonder if that's actually a bad sign, because if I never get into the replication layer, maybe it's offline and they're not adding users to it.
Chat's saying that that their cache recovery is not enabled for this. So Northern Trooper may be misunderstanding for that.
That's in the patch notes.
Okay. So basically the question is mute. The question is moot.
Because we're not mute.
Moot. Yeah. Just because it's not in there. So
it's not making any sounds. It's mute.
It's mute. It's moot. All right, that was the last question.
A cow's opinion.
I've never heard that one before. That's good.
That's from Friends, isn't it?
It's a Joey Tribbiani from Friends.
It's a Joey Tribbiani from Friends. Yeah, it's a cow's opinion. It's moo.
It's a moo point.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Darnator. Thank you, Red Monster. Thank you, Radar Ranger, for coming in for this end of the year sort of kind of retrospective.
Very festive too.
Yeah, we're all
except Arch.
We all had
3 out of 4. 3 out of 4 ain't bad.
Yeah, he's the Grinch for this one. We'll be back. I'll be back next week. But if you celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. If we don't see you until New Year, and make sure you're checking out jrdf.sc. Make sure you check out redmonstersc. Twitch.tv/redmonstersc or youtube.com/redmonstersc. Okay,
you got it.
Okay, I didn't know if it was the same in YouTube. And then of course check out my Radar, fantastic app. I use it for my weather updates. It's worth your time and worth your investment. And investment is free because it's free for you to use. So
Absolutely free.
And you can actually check out
there are ads, but
yeah. But you can check out the radar, the actual live radar, and everything like that. So it's neat. There's a lot of stuff you can get into deep with it for that. And of course,
and for everyone who doesn't celebrate Christmas, happy We Slidin' season.
We sliding season.
We sliding. Yeah. That's a very niche meme, man. If anybody gets it,
tell me if you in the comments if you got that meme. I didn't get it, but yeah, make sure if you enjoy this, make sure you check us out live at Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel on YouTube. And if you did enjoy this, like the video, comment down below as always. And on Twitch, make sure you hit that follow button. And love to see you here more often. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.